back in the sunny St. George, and it feels good to be alive right now.
Nice.
Salt Lake is just way too cold. I don't know if you guys have been up there lately, but we got I'm flying in, and we got like a foot of snow that night, and then the next day we got like another foot. I swear. Like half of it melted off, and we got like another foot. I hate snow.
I used to love snow, but I've really I hate it now because of how much snow I've had to deal with for the past 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely. I think Salt Lake is great and all for some things, and snow is good for some things, but for the most part, when it comes to snow, it can stay in the mountains. I'll go visit it when I'm wanting to snowboard or something, but other than that, I don't really care to be in it, especially with stupid drivers.
North Dakota, I've had to deal with like the highest ever gotten in one night, I would say, is like 18 inches, 20 inches.
It's too much.
Yeah. And like I remember I'd always come back to North Dakota during the winter. I would fly from Vegas back into Minot, and and just having a friend take me home one time. All I could see was just like a good 4 or 5 feet of snow just piled up on the sidewalks, and I was like, I definitely did not want to be back.
Yeah.
Well, there's reasons why dinosaurs died in certain places on this planet. Uinta County and Minot are two great examples of why.
Yeah, for sure.
And Minot's flooded like at least 2 or 3 times. Like the whole city just got flooded. It's just like a river going straight through the city. Well, I wonder why. It's because of all that snow. I would assume.
I always wonder when it gets really, really hot in the summer, like how pioneers land here when it's like 115 degrees. And they're like, you know what? This is the spot. This is good. We're gonna hang out here.
Yeah.
There's no way I can like live here without snow.
Yeah, they're a lot stronger than I. They were a lot stronger than I am. I'm kind of a softie anymore. Growing up, I was just like, yeah, snow party. Let's go build a fort. Not anymore.
Yeah. Same thing. I never got cold when I was a kid. Like, I never remember being cold or hot, like, if I think really far back. And my daughter's the same way now. She's 5, and she doesn't feel the hot, and she doesn't feel the cold. And she, like, go play, and I just don't understand it all.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, yeah. Kids are resilient to anything and everything.
Did SkyWest buy a new CRJ 900?
I have no idea.
Because we got this new a CRJ 900 landed at the airport, and it was on our ramp. And at first I thought it was mechanical issues, but I was being told from different people that they're coming in and out. I heard 2 different stories. Either pilots are being trained by a Czech airman, so that's why they're like doing practice runs there, or what do you call it? And I had another story where I guess the SkyWest company and the CEOs and everybody is just going to come out and check their new aircraft. I don't know which one's which.
Huh.
And so, but they went to Atlanta today. So, did you dispatch that flight?
No, I was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is my day off. from SkyWest, and then yeah, I just barely got in the jump seat, fly back here. Had a brand new first officer that made us 30 minutes late coming in today, so I didn't get my hair cut. But anyways, cool. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys had an opportunity to look over all that information we sent, or had you read and look at yesterday. Um,
Yeah, dude, that was a ton of reading.
yeah, it's a lot of reading, but it's gonna pay off big. And weather, the really hard thing about teaching weather, is as far as reading, being able to read these charts. We're going to go through the information on these charts, but it really comes down to you guys and your personal study to really absorb it. Because one day of going through the information just isn't going to be um, adequate for it to really stick. Um, we're going to keep all the information on the website, and I want you guys to know that like we're fully expecting this course to take longer than 8 weeks, as far as like some of your guys' questions, you guys studying and everything. We kind of expect that. Like, just because the in class ends at the end of 8 weeks doesn't mean that we're done. You know, you guys are more than welcome to call me or Adam, to email us. We can go over more stuff. We can meet up at the library and go over information um, to help you guys out. But at the same time, um, you know, it's really up to you guys to read the information that we supply you guys with, because that's where you're going to really learn. And then you guys can go back and watch these videos once again, um, as many times as you need to pick up the information that you need. Um, but like I said before, uh, you know, there's an advantage to having an accelerated course like this, and then there's also a disadvantage. You know, when I took it up at Salt Lake Community College, it was literally 2 years of schooling that we had to go through. Aviation orientation, private pilot, had to go through instrument ground school, had to do aviation meteorology and human factors and systems and all of that before we could even sign up for the dispatch course. So, um, you know, you
The only
guys,
thing I'm struggling with. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you guys, you know, have advantage of it not taking 2 years. You guys can get the training that you need, but at the same time, um, you know, don't think that it all has to come from the 4 hours of class time that we get a night. We expect you guys to continue educating yourselves and watching the videos on our YouTube channel. Um, Also, the links in our Google Drive here. You know, every one of our folders is going to have links to videos to help you guys. Just continue looking through that information, and always know that me and Adam are here to help you guys with whatever you need after the class is done as well, and really during the class too. I mean, anytime you guys need help, we're here to help you. Um, what were you going to say, Matt?
I was just gonna say, yeah. The only thing I keep struggling with, like I was going through it all day, and I was even having an instructor kind of help me. Um, but the only thing I'm not understanding is the remarks
Mm-hmm.
part of of all the meters, and like he was telling me, well, so I know what SLP stands for now. I mean, I just had help from I had help from Greg just now, but um, I don't understand what like the P0005 means. I would have to show you it, but
Yeah. So we're going to go over. That's what we're going to start today's class with. Is we're going to go through METARs and TAFs. I'm going to have each one of you read some METARs and TAFs, and then we'll go over charts. So we'll get a lot of practice on it today.
Okay, yeah, because I'm studying that sheet that you put out on the folder. I printed that out, and that's what I'm trying to study.
Yeah, and we'll keep going over it, and make sure it sticks for you guys. So that being said, I'm gonna pull up this map. I'm gonna see where some fun weather's occurring. I don't want to make it too easy on you guys.
You should make it easy and then hard. Like make it a level up every time.
Nah.
Oklahoma City, Garrett.
Okay.
Freezing rain all day.
That sounds like a blast to be in right now.
Yep, got a quarter-inch of ice all over my rental car.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's a no-fly zone right now.
Yeah, they've had cancellations here all day long.
There we go. That'll give us a pretty good amount of information for now.
You should have those weather mod people come to Oklahoma City, then just fly around so they can break up the clouds and all.
I wish it were that easy.
Yeah, if it only worked.
Yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
So those the CDs or Cedars, the guys that fly those planes, that's mostly for fog. That's for clearing low-level clouds and fog. Basically, what they do is they'll fly over the area and they have a machine full of dry ice and they grind it up and spit it out all over the clouds, and the carbon dioxide grabs the oxygen around it and kills the clouds basically. But as far as stopping freezing rain and stuff, I don't know that it would be too effective.
Yeah, we would have the Cessna 310s. Have those they had those like little tanks on the bottom of their wings, and they would just spray all over. Like they would go in fold-in patterns and just spray all over the sky and kind of break everything up.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, who feels the most comfortable? Everybody's going to get a turn today. We're going to go make sure that everybody's understanding it. But who wants to start off? Our METARs.
I'll go first.
All right, Corey. Let's start with Seattle.
All right. So Seattle. I haven't had a chance to go through all the abbreviations from yesterday.
Here, let me
switch that day anyway.
Yeah. All right. That should be a little easier.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go through all those abbreviations from yesterday, Garrett. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I'm going to slaughter this.
Okay.
Looks like 1800. Is that 6 p.m. or? I really haven't had time to go over this.
So that's we're going to start with the time here. So this is our date and time. So the 21st at 23:53 Zulu. And then
Ralph,
we'll do,
I have
this is our wind direction and wind speed. So 180 at 8 knots. This is our visibility, 10 statute miles. Our sky conditions. We got few clouds at 3,000 feet and overcast at 6,000 feet. This is our temperature and dew point. So 1 degree Celsius for our temperature. Our dew point, remember the M stands for minus, right? So it's a negative 4 degrees. Our altimeter is 3024, so 30.24, and that's in inches of mercury. Then when we go into the remarks section, once again, it's important to understand what's being said in the remarks section, but as a dispatcher, we don't necessarily use this every single day. As Adam was saying yesterday, it's good to know what it's saying, but I'll go through this one. And even I'm going to stumble on this. The AO2 is a automated weather station with a precipitation discriminator. As far as this SNE 08, I would need help on that. I'm not 100% sure. But this is our sea level pressure. This is the precipitation that's fallen since the last METAR, so 0 inches of precipitation. The last 6 hours of precipitation is 0, right? This is our accurate temperature and dew point. So if we look at our temperature here, once again, they're going to round these numbers. So our temperature, since there's not a 1 here, it's going to be 0.6 degrees Celsius. So that rounds up to a 1. And then this is our dew point. And because there's a 1 for the first character here, that's going to be minus. That's our M. And then 3.9 degrees, which rounds to 4 degrees Celsius. So negative 4 degrees Celsius. Okay. Let's see. 1011. This is our oh man, I'm crashing here. 10. I don't know why I'm completely blanking on these two numbers here. Adam, do you remember? See, we don't use this every day, so it's hard to remember sometimes. Let me.
Which one are you talking about?
We're talking about this section here.
That section right there, I believe that is it's giving, I believe it's giving us additional information on like the temperature changes, but let me take a look here real quick.
Yeah,
Garrett,
so
that one at the first of the line on the second, that SNE08, I looked the code up, it's sector visibility.
oh, okay. So sector, the northeast sector is at 8. Is that what it's saying?
Well, 8 is the sector visibility code, so I'm assuming just south northeast, something like that. I don't know.
Something northeast.
Okay, so for the for the P0000 and the 60000,
Uh-huh.
can you tell me what those are again?
So the P is the precipitation that's fallen, the amount of precipitation that's fallen since the last METAR. Okay. So if there was like a 1 here, that would mean that 0.11 inches of precipitation had fallen since the last METAR. When we see a 6 prior to the number here, that means that's a 6 hour in the last 6 hours how much precipitation has fallen. And so
Okay, so
if it
the
was
hours would go in front first, like it would tell you how many hours of precipitation
so
first, the first number.
it's only going to be a P, a 3, or a 6. So they're
Okay, is
only
this for updates every 6 hours?
no, that's a TAF. This is
Oh,
precipitation only, and this is on our METAR. So the P stands for since the last METAR, and then the 6 in this case stands for the last 6 hours. How much precipitation's fallen in the last 6 hours. So
okay.
this is looking back. When we talk about TAFs, that's a forecast. So that means in the future what's expected to happen. So this is like current condition. Um, the METAR is always current condition at the field. And then we talked about the temperature here. This is your more accurate temperature reading here.
And then those next three are the high and low temperatures over the last 6 hours.
Okay. So I'm
it's
guessing that's
telling you, yeah, it's basically telling you like
in the last 1 hour.
Yeah, so the last hour, and then then 2 hours, and then the 5 and 6. Let's see here. So it's the 24. So the first one is the 6 hour maximum temperature, and it's given us basically in, obviously, like it's kind of the same as that other one, into the 10th of a degree in Celsius. So it's basically the one. It's obvious, kind of like the first one again. The one, if there's a 1 at the beginning, then that means it's below 0 degrees Celsius. And then the second one is the 6 hour minimum temperature, and that one, same deal. 10th of a degree of Celsius. If it's negative, it'll have a 1 at the beginning. And then the last one is actually the 24-hour maximum and minimum temperature. So over the past 24 hours, that will tell us essentially what, this one doesn't technically have the 24-hour one in it, but there's an option like you could have one. If it has just 5 numbers, it's a 6 hour max temperature or minimum temperature. And then that very last one is the pressure tendency. So it's basically giving us the change in pressure over the past 3 hours.
Yeah. And see, that's why dispatchers don't always necessarily have these memorized. It's because a lot of that is completely irrelevant.
Yeah. So those latter two numbers are red, the 10011, et cetera. So it would be a positive 1.1 and a negative 1.1, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So this is saying the 6 hour high, right? So we would read that 1 dictates the 6 hour high. So it would read a positive 1.1 degrees. The 2 here dictates the 6 hour low. And that, since there's a 1 preceding the rest of the numbers, that means that it would be a negative 1.1 degrees. So the high was 1.1 degrees, the low was negative 1.1 degrees. And
so how would you sector out that last one? I can't figure that one out.
This one? This
Yeah,
one,
sorry.
yeah. So this one, like you said, this is the pressure variance. So that one is complete French to me. I have.
So the 5 in front of it simply just denotes that it's pressure tendency.
Okay.
So the 5 means nothing more than identifying the type of the remark. So it just means it's pressure tendency. And then the rest of it is just the change in the overall pressure over the past 3 hours. So it's only changed. It's got that 6016 has been the sea level pressure change. So yeah, on that one's probably not really ever going to be too tremendously useful. Nor is the 2 in front of it either, like the 6 hour max or the 6 hour minimum. Those two, if you wanted to really, I mean, I can't think in my head of a dispatcher ever needing any of those last 3. Because typically if a dispatcher is watching the weather, he's already going to know the trend. I mean, you can go back and look at previous METARs and just see a trend just by doing that. Now, as for the other remarks, some of those other ones can be helpful, in limited circumstances. Obviously, the temperature of the true temperature there, that the 6.1 and 3.9 on the true temperature there, and then even some of the other ones too, like the precipitation over the last hour or over the last 6 hours. Sometimes that can be helpful as well, but it really just depends on what you're trying to figure out. I mean, sometimes it might be helpful and sometimes it might not. But obviously, as a general idea, it is beneficial to know what the remarks are saying. Even if we don't use them that much. I think the truth about it is that most dispatchers just kind of disregard it as if it's something that they don't need to know. However, I kind of feel like if dispatchers did know what they meant and kind of kept up on what they all mean, they would probably use it more. Like, for instance, like that sector visibility, that's helpful. I mean, it's potentially helpful, like that'll give you sometimes a location of a fog bank, especially like for Salt Lake City, when you have those inversion events that come in and they come off of the Great Salt Lake and then they move over the airport, you'll start seeing that fog bank show up in the METAR. So it'll basically say, even though the visibility is, 10 and, say 10 and clear, sometimes, but you'll start seeing, you'll start looking at a METAR for Salt Lake City, and you'll start seeing, the temperature and the dew point getting closer together. You'll be able to do some forecasting simply just by looking at the METAR. But also, if you do know what the remarks mean, then they will help you. If like I was saying, like it'll say, like in the Salt Lake METAR, it'll say fog bank, northeast or northwest of the airport, and so there's a lot of times that'll help you know that within the next few minutes we might get the fog bank rolling in over the airport. In the middle of summer, there's also ones that help out a lot too. Like you'll sometimes see in the remarks, you possibly see a funnel cloud in the remarks. So if the METAR, if the weather information, or if there's a tower, depending on if it's an automated weather report or if there's actually human input into it, sometimes in the remarks you'll see things like a funnel cloud northeast of the airport. That one happens obviously a lot for the Midwestern cities. Denver, you'll see it in there as well. And it will basically, give you an idea, like if there's not necessarily over the airport, but you might have a funnel cloud in the vicinity of the airport, and that's information that the dispatcher absolutely wants to know. Relay that onto a flight that you might have landing there in the next, few minutes or whatever, or just, plan to land there soon. So yeah, there's it really can help a lot if you get familiar with the remarks and kind of be able to know what they are, especially like today is a really good example for Oklahoma City. It's been freezing rain is one of the most detrimental weather things, that can happen for aircraft and for aircraft operations at an airport specifically. If we know that freezing rain is going to be occurring at an airport, we typically will not even send our planes there at all. So I haven't over the span of my life, and physically, I've never really witnessed a lot of freezing rain because you don't see it a lot out west. But here, like being in Oklahoma City, and now that I kind of live out east, it's obvious it's a lot more frequent and a lot more common to actually see these things. So to literally have the rain like freeze on impact on the roads and on your vehicles and things like that. So obviously for runway conditions, if you have this freezing rain going on, it's going to ice up the runway immediately, like on the impact. And so that's one of the big things to watch for as well. But like if you're looking at freezing rain as an example, the reason I'm bringing Oklahoma City up is because if you want to know how much precipitation has fallen over the last hour, and you see freezing rain in the METAR, and then you look at the precipitation over the last hour, and you'll see, you've had 1 inch of freezing rain. You can usually do some math in your head and know that's probably going to be 1 inch of solid ice in most cases. So there's a big difference between just a tiny bit of freezing rain and a lot of freezing rain, 1 inch of freezing rain. So those are things that the METAR is not going to tell you that unless you know what the comments and remarks mean. So little tidbits can really help out a lot, especially in your, if you're getting ready to plan a flight to Oklahoma City, or if you have a flight en route to Oklahoma City already, it might help you make a lot of decisions on whether you want to turn the plane around, divert them earlier, and go wait out the weather, or, basically it's going to really help in your overall planning as a dispatcher. And that's, that's your job. So good to know some of this stuff. Garrett, you're muted.
I'm back. Sorry, I was just talking to myself, I guess. Anyways, so we just kind of gave you guys a breakdown of a METAR. Who would like to give the next one a shot?
I'll give it a go.
All right, Greg, you got the specie here. So first of all, what is a specie?
Well, I would assume I'll start with the one below, and then the upper one, the specie, is an inter-hour update, whichever you want me to do.
Okay, yeah.
So starting with the OKC, it's on the 21st at 2352 Zulu, winds from 020 at 13 knots, 10 miles visibility, overcast at 900 feet. It's for the temperature, it's -4 and -4 for the dew point. Altimeter is 30.34. For the remarks, it's reporting automated at 2 with precip. The surface level pressure is 288. I get lost somewhere in the middle there, but it is interesting that it's showing that it's a -4.4 and not just 4. So the dew point is getting close to the temp. So then the specie, the inter-hour update is the 22nd and 0034 Zulu. You have the winds at 010 for 16 knots, gusting to 20 knots, 10 mile surface, statute miles visibility, overcast to 1,000 at 1,000, and both the temp and precip are -4 and -6 respectively. The altimeter is 30.34 and reporting on O2 at 4.4 negative and -5.6.
Okay.
So real quick there on that one, obviously you read a METAR and you read the Speci. Why, just by looking at those two, does anyone want to take a guess as to why the Speci was issued? Or can anybody look at that and tell why the Speci was issued?
I'm gonna say
Is it the
because
winds?
the winds picked up.
Yeah, exactly. So does anybody remember what the threshold is on the wind?
Threshold. What do you mean?
Like, for instance, how much does the wind need to change in order for a Speci to be generated?
I thought it was it 20? Can't remember.
Well, it kind of goes, yeah. I mean, there's kind of a,
And there's an angle change too, right? A direction
it's got to
change.
change so much,
Isn't it 10 knots?
or in direction, or a
45 degrees.
looking at that, you can tell. So the visibility didn't change. The ceiling really didn't change. The temperature didn't really change. The pressure didn't change. So yeah, I mean, the wind is literally the only thing that changed there. And it was, the difference in the 10 degrees of direction and, picking up on the gust up to 20 knots. So yeah, that is the reason why the Speci was generated.
Yeah, and to go along with that, these gusty winds. When you think about it, it's really important that they update with a Speci, right? Because think about our, well, maybe not the CRJ, but several aircraft's maximum crosswind component can put them out of that crosswind component. Say they're coming to land, so it's really important that they keep these. I don't believe it's a 20 degree. I don't even believe it's a 10 degree. I think it's a 5 or a not degree, but not a change in 5 degrees or more. Oh. I don't know, Adam. I think you still have control of my mouse. Let's see. Now somebody else does. How do I take my mouse back? There we go. Nobody has it now. Anyways, so what happens is, a 5 degree change in wind speed is what I believe it is. And then I think if there's a variation of, 45 degrees, will also require an update.
Just from my experience in flying, I don't know that the wind direction or the speed would bother me, but what does bother me is the gusts, because you think you're locked onto your glide slope or you're just coming in just right, and you get a crosswind 20 knot. That can throw your tail straight up or straight side just instantaneously. So that's never fun.
Yeah, it makes it exciting. I remember. So when I was flying private pilot, doing my training, there was one day that the maximum crosswind component of a Cessna 172, I want to say, is like 17 knots. Well, we had winds gusting to 21 knots, and luckily it was just kind of quartering the runway. But we, when we were looking at the windsock at the field elevation, it was like, oh, it's a 15 knot windsock and it's not fully extended, so the wind's got to be around 12 miles an hour, 10 to 12 miles an hour. So we were like, we can take off in this. As soon as we cleared the buildings, we realized that the winds were definitely 21, 22 knots. we it was like we hit the brakes, and we climbed extremely fast, but it was extremely out of control and very dangerous. We turned to our downwind leg, and we picked up some speed in that thing. I think we hit about probably in the neighborhood of 120 to 130 knots, which in a 172 that's hauling. And as soon as we hit that base leg and we pretty much turned straight from base to final, it was like we were going backwards, is what it felt like again. And yeah, winds not so much fun when you're trying to do a landing. But yeah, I made it. It was a good landing because we made it out alive, so we may have bounced like 3 or 4 times down the runway, but I'm here today, so that's all that matters.
Also a good example of that when it shows 20 knots gusting, that causes a lot of havoc over the top of the hangars, and when you're clearing certain obstacles, all of a sudden it's there and then it's not. So you have these strong gusts, and then you get below the hangar height, and
yeah,
all of a sudden you just drop out of the sky. So there's a lot. I really worried about those gusts more than steady winds.
Yeah, a little more predictable with the steady wind. Okay, good. Who wants to go next?
I can try this one. See if I can get it all. Okay. Where's the KIAH from?
That's Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. All right. So it's the 21st day of the month at 23:53 Zulu time. Our wind direction is 340 degrees at 5 knots. Did I read that right?
Yep.
And then we got 4 statute miles of visibility. The BR is mist.
Very good.
Correct. Yep. And then we got overcast clouds at 600 feet.
Yep.
Right? And then our temperature is 14 degrees Celsius. Our dew point is also 14 degrees Celsius. Our altimeter is reading 30. Do you have to, when you put the point in, do you read it with a point, or do you just say 3011?
Either.
I had it written
down
that you just assume there's a point there.
Yeah.
Anyways,
as a pilot, you're going to assume that there's a decimal point between the two.
Decimal.
Because this is in inches of mercury. So pilots, they'll either read it 30.11 or they'll read 3011.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, 3011 is what our altimeter setting is at. Remarks are automated 2, sea level pressures 196. Let's see, the 6. Damn, I'm lost on the 6 one, but the next one is the temperature and the dew point, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Then, oh shit. I'm getting jumbled, but I know what I don't know like the correct way to read them off, but like I know what the little bunches of numbers mean.
No worries.
Okay.
We're going over. We've been going over these. Me and Adam just figured out what they meant tonight. No, we had to look them up.
I know.
But
yeah, I know the first little bunch of numbers is the 6-hour max temp, and then the next one's the 6-hour minimum temperature, and then the last one's the pressure tendency.
Yep.
But I couldn't read them off the correct way.
Perfect. So this first one is this is the 6-hour precipitation. So
that's right. How much precipitation in the last 6 hours?
Yep, and that would be 1.12 inches in the last 6 hours. So that's a lot of rain. This, as far as being able to read the temperature, this is saying the 6 hour high, right? So 16.1. The way I look at it is what makes sense. If you're looking at these four numbers here, what makes sense if we look at our temperature? We know it's temperature. What makes sense if that's our temperature? 16.1 degrees would make sense. So that's how I usually do it. Is I tend to forget. Like I know this is our temperature, our accurate temperature and dew point reading, and so I always end up looking at the temperature and the dew point, and I go, oh well, that makes sense. 14.4 degrees and 13.9 degrees. That makes sense if we're getting 14.4 in the main part of the METAR. And so when we're looking at our 6 hour high and our 6 hour low, it's kind of like, well, 16
16.1 and
degrees.
13.9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of makes that sense. And then this is our pressure tendency. So yeah. Oh man, I want to sneeze, but I don't want to sneeze.
Do it.
Okay. Well, you did awesome. I'm super glad that you remembered that one. That was awesome.
Yeah, I screenshotted our thing from last night and was looking at them at work today, and I thought that one was weird that BR meant missed.
Yeah.
That's why it stood out. I could not make the connection there at all, but
yeah. So I'll go through. I memorize
I'll
things.
remember it as it's
I remember
baby
things
rain,
as,
little
there
tiny
you go.
rain.
Yeah, that's
Baby
how a lot of
rain.
people remember it, is the baby rain.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's what my instructor told me to do.
yeah, there's
The baby
also
rain. Yeah.
there's also, I don't know. I got some weird ways of remembering this. Oh wait, 5 day 2. So we'll go through these really quick for everybody.
If you want to know real quick why BR means mist, it's because it comes from a French word that the French word for mist is I don't know how to speak French, but it's brume, BRUME.
Oh, okay.
And so that's
right.
what mist is in French. Anyway, so and then like as another one, like if you look on the thing that he has up on his screen here, like look at smoke. That's FU.
Fume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fume, which in French, even or in Spanish as well, it also is like fumo. So
fumes. Or fumes in English, just fumes.
Yeah. So a lot of the abbreviations just really have to do, if it doesn't make sense, just kind of think in your head, well, it's probably because it's a word in a different language. So it meant to not make sense for us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
because why would they make it easy?
Right. Aviation likes to make things hard on us. So you can remember brume, or you can remember baby rain for mist. Another one that kind of catches people is the smoke. When I think of smoke, the way I remember it is like if I were in a smoky room, FU smoke. Probably not the most politically
that's
correct.
That's a good one. But it's applicable.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's better than Virga and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Spray. PY. I just look at the P and the Y and spray.
I don't know if I've ever seen spray in a METAR.
I have. I saw
Where
one
would
the other day.
where would the spray be coming from? Like just cloud spray, or what's the difference between spray and is it just windy rain?
I'm sure the FAA website will have a very detailed, like, this qualifies for spray, like 0.50 to 16% moisture compared to mist, which is like it's they break it down like mist and fog. The only difference is the amount of visibility between the two, and I can't remember the distances, but spray is very similar to that, where it's just like this much precipitation in the air qualifies it as spray.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Anyways,
if you look at PO there on the top right, stands for dust and sand. Same thing. Like in Spanish, that the word for dust is polvo, Polvo. So just another one of those doesn't make sense things.
So you habla español?
Oh yes.
Si habla español. I don't habla.
I am fluent in Spanish, and I'll tell you what. Like if you do know a different language, well, Spanish, at least at SkyWest, but Spanish is the most useful there. But I sometimes I'd use it every single day. So
really,
working there, yeah, because especially when we had a lot of flights into Mexico, I kind of like became like the designated person to like call the tower and the airports down there, unfortunately. So.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Did you learn Spanish working there, or did you know it before that?
No, I knew it before there. I went on my church mission to Mexico, so.
So he hablas real well. I'm
jealous.
Yeah, I kind of want to get into a language class, but yeah. So BC, I don't know where they got BC, but my I've got a lot of firefighters in my family, so BC, I think of a battalion chief Patch. BC Patches.
I will not forget that.
Low drifting, DR, blowing. So, like we said before, the descriptor is just telling us what's happening to the precipitation. So, is it like shallow fog? Is it, partial haze? Is it patchy fog? Is it low drifting smoke or mist? Blowing volcanic ash? Whatever it is, this is just kind of telling us like what's happening to that precipitation or the obscuration. Then it breaks it into, so we've got the amount, we've got the descriptor, we've got the precipitation type, so showers like rain showers, snow showers, thunderstorms with rain, freezing rain, and then this obscuration is like a visibility. So these are typically causing like low visibility at the airport. So this is more of like a ground-based obscuration, and this is just other stuff that doesn't have a place in any of these other categories. So squalls, squalls like really high winds and rain. You've got sand and dust swirls, funnel clouds, tornado or waterspout. And yes, you do need to know that an FC can be a funnel cloud, tornado, or waterspout. Typically, to indicate which one it is, they'll put a light, moderate, or heavy in front of it to tell us what you know, like a light would be our water spout. Moderate would be our funnel cloud, and then a plus would be tornado. So then sandstorms and dust storms. Sandstorms. This is a good one. Where do we see a lot of sandstorms? We're not too far from there.
Arizona.
Death Valley.
Yeah, Arizona, big time. What do they call them down there?
Dirt devils.
So dirt devils. Haboobs. Yep.
What do you call them if there's multiple dust storms?
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. It's haboobies.
That's a common joke around the office. Got some haboobies down in Arizona.
That makes it sound like it's a good day, though. But clearly, if you're in multiple sandstorms, it's not a good day. It's very misleading.
Yeah, that's. They are pretty insane too. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like the movie Sahara, or I don't know what's another one. What's that horse race one?
I don't know about the horse race one, but there's a cool one in The Mummy, I believe.
Yeah, The Mummy. It's literally like a huge wall of sand that just moves across the surface and just completely obscures everything in its path. Like, really,
they had one in that.
Stuff.
They had a sandstorm, like model of one in those documentaries that we watched when we very, very first started the weather, when it was talking about how the minerals move from the desert and fertilize the plants in the jungle and the rainforest and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a really cool sandstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, they're insane to see.
I used to live about 16 miles south of Phoenix.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes driving home, we'd have one come through, and you couldn't see a car 20 feet in front of you. It was really dangerous because you didn't want to stop because someone would slam into you, but then you'd see a bunch of cars that would pull way off on the side of the road, and it was just dangerous as all get out.
Yeah, for sure.
In New Mexico down by, well, it's kind of the Las Cruces, the Juarez border down there, they have, as you're driving through by the almond farms and all that, the soil is almost like moon dust. It's not even sand. And there's just no topography at all to hold it down. And they have lights like signs and then lights in the middle of them, and they'll just be flashing as you're driving along and you pull over. And sure enough, it's just so dense you can't see your finger like right in front of your face. And then it'll blow by, and then, everybody gets back on the road and goes. It's a pretty miserable topography down there, but that's interesting that they have the lights and the warnings when they come.
Yeah, it's because it's extremely dangerous. It's like you see one of those coming, you got to get in a safe spot quick. I'm sure it clogged up your air filter and stuff on your vehicle too, didn't it, Corey?
That was actually me. Yeah. Oh yeah, down there too. It's like, then you have to go into the Jiffy Lube and have them buy you a new $40 air filter.
That's why they always check mine, is because they want to see. I guess in some areas of the state, they're like, make a killing off those air filters, huh? Well, cool. I'm going to leave this up. Why don't we take a 20-minute dinner break, and then we'll jump back on and we'll keep going down the list doing METARs and TAFs. Everybody cool with that?
Yeah, I just got one question that I've been meaning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I know that the mist for BR, I know that's like baby rain. So what was smoke stand for? What would the FU stand for?
So BR stands for brume, which is a French word for mist. FU is fume for smoke in French. So It's going back to its Latin roots, I guess.
The word fumes in English.
Yeah. Fumes in English. Fume.
I guess it's fumes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in English, baby rain, fumes, BC. I don't know. You can come up with whatever you want for that. But I always think of battalion chiefs wearing their patches. I don't know. Stupid things like that help you memorize this stuff. But I'll leave this up and we'll jump back on at, let's just call it 7 o'clock. How about that?
Sure.
Alrighty.
Perfect.
All right. Is everybody back?
Yes, sir. You guys should check out this video that it's really cool.
Is that a video about the Canadair regional jet, Matt?
Oh, it's I think it's Jazz Airlines with the Dash 8 and the CRJ, and it kind of just shows you the operation and landings, and it's really cool.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it.
I want to see a bunch of them. It's called Just Planes on YouTube. It's Just Planes. They have a bunch of them. It's really cool.
Nice. All right. We're going to get started again here. So, anyways, we've gone over those weather discriminators and stuff like that. So let's just keep moving on down the line. See if we can get some more of these TAFs read.
Can I read that one? I'm kind of curious to know what the OC and L stands for.
We'll take a look here. Matt, why don't you give that one a go?
Okay. I don't know what airport that is, but
Little Rock.
Calet. Okay. Little Rock?
Yep.
Little Rock, 21st day at 23:53 Zulu. Wind direction is 030 degrees at 9 knots, 6 statute miles. Light misty rain. Overcast at 700 feet. What was it? Density. No. Sorry. The temperature is 7 degrees Celsius. The density altitude is 7 degrees Celsius. So that's why. So there's fog that should be rolling in. Occasional. Okay, got it. The altimeter is 3026.26. For marks, automated weather automated station. sea level pressure is, I don't know if that's 25,200 feet or if that's
probably not at a station, but
it means sea level pressure. I just don't know. I don't know what those numbers are though.
it's just our hectopascals.
Again. Oh, okay. Again, light rain, occasional rain. P is precipitation at 700 feet, right?
Nope. That's the precipitation that's fallen in the last hour. So that would be 0.07 inches.
0.0. Okay, so I just kind of have to put the point in the middle of the 0 and then. Okay, so precipitation is at 0.07 inches. Gosh dang it.
So that's a 6-hour precipitation.
Yes, the 6-hour precipitation is at 4.6 inches.
Nope. Right? Decimal goes in the same spot.
What was that?
That decimal will go in the same spot.
Oh, 0.46 inches. And then let's see. The temperature in a more outlet form is 6.7 degrees, and so is the dew point. And I got lost again on those last three parts of the left numbers.
Yeah, just the high temperature and the low temperature in the last 6 hours. And then this is our pressure over the last 24, our pressure tendency.
Okay, I got to write that down because I'm going to forget that if I don't. So it's high and low, and what else?
High and low over the last 6 hours. And then our pressure tendency over the last 24.
Pressure dependency?
Tendency. Tango tendency. So this this right here, it says light rain, then the OCNL, and then rain. This is saying that it's going from light rain to occasional. The OCNL is occasional rain. Does that make sense? So occasional moderate rain.
So, okay, so it doesn't mean like it's changing from light rain to heavy rain or normal rain?
It occasionally goes from a light rain to a moderate rain.
Okay.
So if we go back to our little worksheet here, our reading, and scroll down to the remarks section, it will tell you in this table what those little contractions mean. So occasional, less than 1 minute. Frequent means that about 1 to 6 flashes per minute. So this means it's like a intensity, like it'll go from a light rain to like a moderate rain for less than a minute. Does that make sense? And then continuous means that more than 6 flashes per minute. So you can kind of see that when it's raining, where all of a sudden you'll get like a really hard spout of rain. So that's what it's talking about. Yeah, good job. There's also, some other things that you're going to see here. Yeah, everybody make sure that you keep using the reading and you know, in your studying. It's kind of like I said before. Me and Adam, you guys saw us struggle on that little bit today. So these don't just come very easy. You know, we're constantly you know, learning new things with these things. Detroit. Who wants to take a stab at Detroit?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, so Detroit on the 21st at 23:53 Zulu. At our wind direction is 090 at 6 knots with 10 statute miles. With few, I guess that's few clouds.
Yeah, few clouds.
Clouds at 010 at broken. At so 25 would be 25.
100 feet. Yep, so it goes hundreds, thousands, 10,000s.
Okay, and then overcast at 6,000 feet or 600 feet.
6,000.
6,000, and then our temperature, temperature is 2 degrees, and our dew point is -1 degree.
Mm-hmm.
And altimeter is 30.59 inches of mercury. The marks is automated with the sea level pressure at 5. I don't know that part. And then the temperature, pressure again. That part also gets me. That's for 6 hours, right?
What part?
The T0022 and the 1019. Is that out?
No, this is our accurate temperature reading, temperature and dew point spread currently happening.
Okay.
So the first 4 numbers, once again, are going to be your temperature. The second 4 are going to be your dew point. So every time I see this T, I always look at my temperature dew point spread, and then I can make sense of what's being laid here.
Okay. It's still, when you have the 2, so it's 20. Is it going to be, is it 22? Not 22.
No, 2.2 degrees. So it's just basically that taking this and just kind of like giving you a more accurate reading on the temperature. So if you go if you look at the 2 here, you can just kind of go, well, I know it's not 22 degrees, so it's probably a 2.2. This 1 here, if we remember, indicates this minus. So the 1 is saying that it's a negative temperature reading, and it's 1.1 degrees, negative 1.1.
Okay. And then the other ones, these next 2 batches of numbers are the after 6 hours of precipitation, the 10061.
So this one's temperatures.
Temperature.
Yep.
Okay.
So the 1 denotes the high temperature. The 2 denotes the low temperature. So the high temperature over the last 6 hours has been 6.1 degrees. The low over the last 6 hours has been 2.2 degrees. So if you look back at our temperature here, we're currently at the lowest temperature over the last 6 hours. And then this is just our average pressure over the last 24 hours. Who remembers what the $sign means?
Maintenance, right?
Yep, maintenance. Good. Okay. Let's see. CJ, did you already read one? Can't remember. Or
yeah, I did. I read the second one.
Oh, okay. Yvonne.
That was when we got on the subject of figuring out why mist meant BR.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So Chicago,
Uh-huh.
the 21st of February at 2351 Zulu. Wind direction is 060, 8 knots, 10 standard miles. Broken clouds at, is it 2,200 feet?
So that one's 22,000 feet.
Okay. Broken clouds at 22,000 feet. Overcast 25,000 feet. The temperature is -2. The dew point is a -7. The altimeter reading is 30.61. The remark is automated. Standard level pressure at 373. We have our temperature and our dew point. I believe the second 10006 and 21017 is at the 6 hours block time.
Uh-huh.
And 53010 is pressure tendency.
Yep.
Which I'm not really quite
Over the last 24 hours, the pressures have been an average of 3010.
So how come the if it's over the last 6 hours, how come they put a 5 there?
No, this one's the pressure tendency over the last 24 hours. So the 5 just denotes that it's the 24-hour pressure tendency. The 1 denotes the 6-hour high, the 2 denotes the 6-hour low, and then the 5 denotes our 24-hour pressure tendency. So I don't know why there's a 5 there, why it's all, you know, I don't know. It's all weird, but that's just the way that these automated stations, well, weather observers have decided that it needs to be denoted. So, yeah. All right. And the last one here. Let's see, Greg. All right. I think that's everybody. So let's take a look. I'm not sure what that means. Let's take a look at this. We'll go to our remarks section. Okay. Temperature dew point group. Okay. So here's our remarks section here. 3.1.5.12 talks about the remarks. And we'll come down here to where it talks about pressure. So here's your weather stations, right? AO2, we keep saying that it's just automated. Well, AO2 technically denotes that it has a precipitation discriminator. AO1, so here's the definition of AO2: automated station with precipitation discriminator. AO1 basically means that it can't sense precipitation. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a more updated version.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. Lower cost version. So let's see. We should almost be there. Oh, yesterday we kind of talked about. Sorry, let me get back on topic here. We'll talk about that in just a second. Oh, okay. So here it is. Talks about pressure. Okay. So when we see that pressure, that means that our pressure is rising rapidly. Okay. If it says P RESFR, that means that it's falling rapidly. So when we see this in our METAR, we know that this pressure is rising rapidly.
So that could you expect a specie?
I don't know that you would expect a specie. This is just giving you a general over the last hour. The METARs, remember, they come out hourly, unless it's a specie, which that's an unscheduled forecast, but the forecast is always hourly. And what what happens is if there's an indication, if I were a pilot and I saw this in the remarks, the pressure rising rapidly, that's just basically letting me know, hey, I'm going to have to pay close attention to the pressure that air traffic control reads to me, or that I get off the automated weather system, because it's rising rapidly. I'll probably need to change it before I start my approach in for landing. Does that make sense? So that's why you'd see it in the METAR. Typically pressure's not going to change too rapidly to where that will be far off. Typically, when I see a METAR and I see an altimeter setting, I know that I'm generally going to be pretty close to that when I get to that airport. Now, if I see this pressure rising rapidly, I'm going to make sure that I get that altimeter setting when I'm setting up for landing. So that's just kind of why that's there. Again, not huge use for a dispatcher. I guess we do kind of tend to, when we're planning a flight, we can choose what pressure we're planning for the runway for landing. Doesn't mean, and that's how we pull our performance data, but it doesn't mean that that's what the pressure is going to be when the pilot's landing. So if I see this in a METAR, maybe I'll just bump it up a couple notches and make sure that the change that I do have set in my performance data is a little more different than what I typically will set it at. But again, it's a remark, so it's not huge. It's just giving us a little more indication of what the current conditions are. So that covers that. What I wanted to tell you guys about, I don't know if you guys remember seeing a CB in the METAR yesterday. Do you guys remember that?
No.
So cumulonimbus. Yeah. So there's other cloud types that we'll see in these METARs, and there are very few clouds that are shown in this in these METARs, because there's only certain clouds that actually affect us as pilots. So the first being that cumulonimbus, right? Cumulonimbus, as we said before, the things associated with that cumulonimbus cloud are going to be thunderstorms or towering cumulonimbus and low-level wind shear. So it usually contains greater turbulence, severe icing, or low-level wind shear. Now, towering cumulus, we'll see this sometimes in our METAR, and if this is showing up, that means that the towering cumulus was within 10 statute miles of the station. That's important because if we have a towering cumulonimbus cloud over the station, our stations are usually located on the airport, right? So when we have these towering cumulonimbus clouds, it's kind of important because that probably means that the airport currently isn't very safe to be landing at. because of the turbulence, icing, and wind shears, right? The other type of cloud that we'll see in a METAR would be your stratocumulus, standing lenticular, our altocumulus, standing lenticular, or our cirrocumulus, standing lenticular. So, who remembers what strato is?
Strato. Like what type of cloud it is?
Yeah, so strato, alto, and cirro denote
Low
the
level,
altitude.
mid level, and high level.
Perfect. There you go. So this is important because what it's doing is it's giving us an altitude, basically. We know that our strato clouds are usually below 6,000 feet. Our alto clouds are between 6 to, I think it's 12,000 feet. And our cirro is pretty much anything above that. So if we see these standing lenticular clouds, what are the standing lenticular clouds again?
So,
does anybody remember what a standing lenticular cloud, why a standing lenticular cloud would be dangerous?
Isn't that where they park along the sides and edges and ridges of mountains and terrain?
Yeah. So what's happening is you have air rapidly rising up the slope of a hill or a mountainside, right? And it's extremely convective, like it's rising extremely rapidly. Well, what's happening as soon as it hits the top of that peak is it's hitting stable air, and it's causing that rapidly rising air to kind of tumble off the end of the mountain and create these vortices, right? We also call those rotor clouds. So when we see these different standing lenticular clouds, typically what we're going to see and associate with these clouds is going to be severe or moderate turbulence. We also get what we call mountain wave turbulence. So that's why we're going to see these clouds notated on our METARs, is because of the severity and what they cause, basically. The type of weather that they cause. It's severe enough to damage your aircraft. So,
can you tell me what each of those cloud bases are again? I know stratocumulus is like below 6,000.
So it's. I was just guessing there. I would look it up if you want to know. Just know that this is
Okay.
a low level. This is low level,
Okay.
mid level, and high level.
Okay.
The one thing with the clouds that I guess I get confused because I am trying to like memorize them. So I do know that the stratus is low level and it's stable, and then they enter the cumulus with it, which is unstable.
Yeah. So strato is denoting the altitude.
Okay.
When we talk about like a stratus cloud, stratus, we associate that with stable air. But when we see strato, that's denoting the altitude in which we're seeing it, alto and cirro. So, because we also have cirrus clouds, right? Cirrus clouds are high altitude.
Right, and then you add the cirrocumulus, cirrostratus, cirronimbus. So, I mean, I can see it now. It was a little bit confusing when I was trying to. Same thing with the altostratus, altocumulus, nimble.
Yeah, and yeah, and that's this is denoting the type of rising action inside the cloud, right? The cumulus means that it's convective or turbulent. When we see stratus, we're automatically thinking stable. When we see cirrus, we're thinking of like the cirrostratus clouds. Once again, we're going back to that stratus. And then when we see nimbus, that's denoting that it's a moisture-bearing cloud, right? Like a precipitation-bearing cloud.
Yeah, because I've seen the nimbostratus in different videos as both low level and mid level, so I think I got a little bit confused.
Yeah, and it's not like a huge thing that you have to know for dispatching. The more you know, the better you're going to be as a dispatcher, right? But it's
just as a gee whiz from the peanut gallery. I remember in Latin in college. It's part of my linguistics. It's from Latin, and there's 10 of them that quantify those names, those prefixes. So there's actually 10 if you really were interested. That
yeah,
based in Latin.
yeah, and we pull a lot of stuff just like that. Well, their chart up here. Those Latin-based languages are where we pull a lot of that. A lot of our aviation stuff, and the reason why we pull a lot of our aviation stuff from Latin is as well is also because you got to remember that aviation's based on maritime navigating and like scales and stuff. Does that make sense? So when we talk about these things, when aviation was created, they were like, well, what are we going to use to denote like distances, and how are we going to keep track of that? Maritime had been universal for as long as people can remember. They used navigation the same way they used, and so like all of that just easily transferred over into aviation because it's a universal language that was already in place. So that's why we see a lot of that Latin in it, is because it was already a maritime based scale. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was already based in maritime navigation and stuff like that. So anyways, just kind of a FYI, every time I think about stuff like that, I think about like what channel was it? It was like PBS or something back in the day, where the star would come across the screen and it would, the more you know. I don't know. I'm weird. I know. My kids and wife tell me all the time.
That was a very enlightening series, Latin was. It's just amazing how much more you can read into the words that you had no clue about.
Yeah.
You just kind of blow over them, not knowing why they call them what they do. But it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's good stuff for sure. It probably helps you memorize things a little easier as well, because you understand where it came from, the root of the word came from. So
well, that would have made my professor left eye twitch. He said if you know Latin well, you shouldn't have to memorize.
Right.
Because you can think through the words regardless of the language. If it's based in Latin, you can figure out the meaning whether you understand how to say it or not. So
right.
It's that was his pet peeve. If you ever said memorize, he kind of started twitching a little bit.
Yeah, because it's very intuitive once you understand the language. But I don't understand Latin. Never taken a lick of Latin, so.
I told him, but for us mere mortals, we have to memorize to get through the semester. So just give it to me.
Exactly.
For real though.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I'm not going to have mouse problems again tonight. I'm back on my good computer. All right. Yay. TAFs. Okay, what is a TAF?
These are the hardest.
You know how you just said, like, if you know Latin, you never have to memorize anything again? Like, that's not necessarily true because you have to memorize the entire language. Like,
Yeah.
That's,
That's
Yeah, don't get me started with that guy. I could stop a lot of his series of armchair, logic. It's a perfect college professor statement for you right there.
right.
kind of reminds me of my big fat Greek wedding. You give me any word, and I will tell you the meaning of it in Greek. I don't know if you guys have seen that
Oh
movie.
man, I haven't seen it in so long, but I used to love it. I don't even remember what happens.
The dad's always telling everybody, "You tell me any word, and I'll tell you the Greek root of that word."
Oh,
But
valid.
kind of funny. Kind of funny. Anyways, so when we look at TAFs are basically a dumbed down METAR because we're forecasting over the next 24 hours what's supposed to happen, right? Now, when we look at a TAF, that doesn't mean that we have to see, we talk about how TAFs, they're scheduled. There's 4 TAFs a day scheduled at 6, 12, 18, and 0 Zulu. So when we talk about TAFs, if we don't see, 4 separate lines, does that mean that the machine was broken that submitted the TAF? No, that just means that that's the forecast for the next however many hours. So if we see a gap where it's like we get a TAF and this is all that's reporting on there, that means for the next 24 hours, that's what their forecasting is going to be happening. Now, if we get, say, this line and then we get this line, that just means that from this line to this line, the forecast is going to stay the same. So what were the 4 times that I just said it, but what are the 4 times that TAFs are scheduled for again?
4 times a day.
Okay, what are the times?
6, 12, 18, and 24.
Yep, or 0, right? The 24 we always refer to as 0. But yeah, exactly. So when we see a tempo, what is a tempo?
Temporary.
It's a change.
Yeah, it's a temporary change in between this forecast and this forecast. That it's a significant enough change that they create a new line that basically gives us a timestamp. We're expecting sometime during that window that for 4 hours there's a possibility this is going to happen. Okay.
Is there a for Adam or you, Garrett? Is there a for the TAFs? I know that I think Adam gave us a website that we can go to that kind of tells us what the METARs each stand for, like those 2 pages. Are there any for the TAFs?
Yep, right there. So once again, if you go back into this week 5, day 2 folder in the lesson plans, it has in the reading, you go through the METAR section, and at the bottom of the METAR section is the TAF section. So it's all on this document, all 46 pages.
Okay.
But like I said before, if you can read a METAR, you can read a TAF, because a TAF is just a dumbed down version of a METAR.
I'm curious because like some of the words or the abbreviations are just a little confusing. Most of them I can read, but there are some let's see.
But they're the same. What I'm saying is they're the same exact abbreviations that you'll see in a METAR. So this is the same exact abbreviation that you'll see in a METAR. This just means there's showers in the vicinity of the airport or the vicinity of the station. This, just like in a METAR, this means light snow. So, so once again, it's taking a METAR. METAR is exactly what's going on right now in this instant. What's happening at the station. A TAF is just dumbing it down to the basic data that we need for a 24-hour period. So it's allowing us to go, I mean, what are the really essential parts of a METAR? Well, the winds, the visibility, and the sky conditions, right? And if there's any precipitation forecasted. Pretty much as a dispatcher, as a pilot, anything else, that's all we're really concerned about when we're looking at a METAR or a TAF is we want to know, do we have visibility? Do we have a ceiling or a cloud layer that we're expecting over the airport? What are the winds expected to do? That's all we really care about because that's all that really pertains to us. And, all this other information that we see in the METARs, all of this remark stuff, that's why we're like, the remarks are good, but is that super essential? It's just going into greater detail of what we're seeing in the main part of the METAR, right? It's not really essential that we know all this other stuff. There's key points that are important, right? When I see this, I know that the rain's fluctuating, intensifying. When I see this PRESRR, I know that pressure's rising rapidly. So I'm going to plan things just a little bit different from the performance of my aircraft. But it's just kind of like footnotes, just like, hey, just kind of remember this. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to be happening at the time that I arrive at the airport. And that's the same thing with a TAF. A TAF is just, hey, we're guessing what's going to happen over the next 24 hours at a given station.
I like that they've actually made some resemblance of a spreadsheet so you can scan the column and see the change kind of trend.
Yeah.
In each of those columns.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly what it's for, is we want to see what the weather's planning to do. So we're just seeing that trend. Trend is a great word. And is a very valuable word in dispatching because that's how we base a lot of our decisions in dispatch is off of trends. We look and see what a direction things are going. And if I see visibility 6 up here, 5 down here, 4, 3, I know that in the next 24 hours, I'm probably going to have poor visibility, right? Or like here, we can see, we have good visibility here, but look, over the next, from 2200 Zulu till pretty much until 10 Zulu, there's a good chance that I'm going to have low visibility. So that's really what these forecasts are for, as we want to see what the trend is for the weather. What's the plan? So we can base some of our aviation decisions off of those plans. So you're going to see here, I'll have somebody read this really quick. Pretty much the only difference between a TAF and a METAR as far as the opening line, I guess you'd say, is this section here. This is what we call the valid time. You see this in the tempo as well. This is our valid time. So what it's saying is that this TAF was put out the 22nd at 3:00:03 Zulu, okay? And that this TAF that we're reading here, this entire thing, is valid from the 22nd at 00:00 Zulu until the 23rd at 06:00 Zulu. So that's what you need to remember there. Now these tempo remarks always have a valid time, because remember it's a change between this line and this line that it's saying that there's a window that there's going to be a significant change in the area, or significant change in the weather during this time. So when we look at a tempo remark, we're going to see what time they're planning. So this is for the 22nd at 0200 Zulu. This is the weather that's expected, but it's saying that from 0300 Zulu until 0700 Zulu, there's a good chance that the weather's going to change to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So
will you tell me what the P before the 6 is again? I'm sorry.
So P denotes greater than.
Greater than. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of talked about this yesterday.
You could think of it as a positive.
Or plus.
Stands for positive, so greater.
Yeah.
Plus, yeah.
So
positive or plus. Okay.
Yep. So in a METAR, we talked about this yesterday. In a METAR, you'll always see.
I have it written down. I don't know why I forgot that.
You're fine. The most you'll see in a METAR is typically 10 miles. Okay. When we look at a TAF, the most you're going to see typically is 6 statute miles, or a plus 6 statute miles is all they'll report.
That's right. I remember now. Sorry. Some of it's sticking, some of it isn't. I'm trying real hard to keep up on all of it.
It's understandable. Like I said, it's going to take a lot of practice. But
if you guys could see my notes right now, it's embarrassing. There's like so many little scribbles written in.
Yeah, that's how my notes always are. I'm all over the page. Yep. But yeah, TAFs are kind of the bread and butter of dispatch. METARs are too, but TAF is really where the rubber meets the road with dispatch, because we're going to base whether we are legal to even dispatch the flight, and also if we are legal to dispatch the flight, are we required to list an alternate on our release? Okay. So understanding a TAF is extremely essential to our job as a dispatcher. We talked about this yesterday once again. We use this every single flight, every single day. When I was flying up from St. George to Salt Lake, I told you guys this yesterday. The dispatcher, the TAF came out, and our visibility dropped from 5 miles to 3/4 of a mile. Dispatcher didn't catch it, didn't list an alternate. Pilot calls up the dispatcher. Hey, you think that we need an alternate since our forecast, our ETA window says 3/4 of a mile when we're expected to be landing there? This is like the number one thing that you've got to catch as a dispatcher. So
how did it list it, Garrett? So like the first line would say 5 miles, the next would show 3/4.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about that right here. I kind of want.
I don't want to derail you, but just.
No, we're gonna get there really quick here. So I just kind of want to
read that.
Yeah, somebody go ahead and read that one for us.
Okay, so the TAF for Seattle issued on the 22nd of February at 0003 Zulu. And
The valid time.
The valid time it was released at 2200 to 2306. 180, that is the wind direction at 8 knots. P is positive 6 standard miles. Is that scattered? Is that scattered clouds at 4,000 feet, overcast 7,000 feet?
Yep. So good job. So the way we read these cloud coverage, this will always be 100 spot. So hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. So as far as this goes, 22nd at 030 or 0003 Zulu. The valid time would be the 22nd day, so February 22nd at 0000 Zulu till the 23rd of February at 06 Zulu. So also make sure that when you read this, it's, if you're going to read that part, it's kind of, yeah, statute miles. So it's kind of a given if you say, you know, visibility 6 miles. If you just say 6 miles, then it's right still, because the statute miles, we're talking about a forecast. And so the statute miles are just kind of implied when we are reading visibility off of a forecast. But if you say standard miles to like an FAA guy, he might go, what was that again? You know, and try to catch you on that. He just wants to know that you understand that that's statute miles. Now, if it's an N, like we're going to see when we're flight planning, the way we measure distances, that's
nautical miles.
Yeah, good. So, good job. So once again, this is our valid time, and yeah, good job. So FM, Matt.
From.
Yep, there we go.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just remember Matt saying that he couldn't remember that FM meant from. So I was going to see if he could remember that today, now that he's wrote it down. But yeah, so our from time is basically saying that starting at 0200 Zulu. So that means starting at. That doesn't mean like anything before. At 0200 Zulu, this is what the forecast is going to be. Okay. The reason why I say that is because this line is valid from 0000 Zulu, as denoted here, until this line. Okay. This is going to come into play when we're talking about legal to go and alternate requirements. This will go 0000 to 0159 because our next line starts at 0200 Zulu. So I want you to write that down, that the lines are valid until the 59 prior to the next from line.
The 59 is
Okay.
prior.
Can you tell me that again? How do I write that down exactly?
Okay. Let me see. Let me pull out my trusty pen here.
I was say, what would be the best way to write that down?
So we're going to look right here and right here, or in this little section here, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this forecast right here, okay, that's valid from 0700 until 1059.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that it's not valid till 1100. It's valid until 1059. Okay, so what I want you guys to write down is that each one of these main bodies, we call them a main body. So each main body is valid from the time stated to the 59-minute mark prior
Okay,
to the next from
that
line.
makes more sense. Once you wrote it out like that, it clicked. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Each main body is valid from time started until
the 59 prior to the next from line.
Until the 59 prior to the next line, you said?
The 59 minutes prior to the next from line.
The next from line, okay.
Okay, so I'm writing these out right here. I'm gonna write them a little bit better. Okay, I'll take my time with the pen tool here. So this time, sorry, let's start here. So as I wrote before, 0700 Zulu until 10:59 Zulu. Okay, this from line is valid from 1100 Zulu till 1959.
That'd just be so much easier if they'd just lop off all those twos and so forth in front of the dates. It's just hard to see when you have all that clutter in there.
Yeah. Yeah, the twos at the front, remember, are just the day. And so when we're looking at TAFs, we're probably not going to be so worried about that. I just kind of make sure that my TAF, I'll make sure that the first one lines up with the day that I'm on. You know, it's the 22nd today, so after I know that this TAF is valid for the 22nd day, I just kind of like blank those out in my mind. Then I just look at the times.
And then you're just on the times, just ensuring there's zero overlap
right
in each of your segments, right?
Yeah, and there won't be any overlap. And that's why it's stated from. So it could be any hour gap here. And let me explain what I mean by that. Right. So once again, the valid time, or what are our scheduled TAF times? Sorry, what are our scheduled TAF times every day?
0600, 1200, 1800, and 0000.
Right. Okay. Do you see a 6 Zulu, a 12 Zulu, an 18 Zulu anywhere in this forecast? No. Okay. Once again, those are the required scheduled times. So those are the times that they'll typically release this top from line. Okay. When we talk about the scheduled times, that we're talking about this time. Okay. This very first one. All these other times are just forecasts over the next however many hours when the significant changes in weather are expected to happen. The scheduled time is always going to be just concern this time right here. This is the time that the forecast was sent out. Okay. All these other times are just the times at which they expect the weather to change. Okay. So as we can see here, 7 to 10:59, that's a 3 hour and 59 minute, or we'll just call it a 4 hour window. Okay. 11 to 20, that's a 9 hour window. Okay. 20 to 1:59, that's a 6 hour window. Okay. Like I said before, our forecasts are only required to be put out at the 00, 0600, 1200, 1800 Zulu times. And that's only concerning to this. All these other times on here are just when they expect that weather to change significantly enough to require that update. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm trying really hard to put this as simple as possible.
I'm kind of getting it.
Yeah. So the reason why this is important, okay, is let's talk about legal to go right now. Okay. What do we have to have at our ETA in order for us to be legal to land at an airport? Does anybody remember?
What do we have to have legal to land?
Yeah, in order to land at our airport, what is required as far as weather is concerned at our ETA?
Our alternate?
No. We're talking at our destination. What's required to be in the forecast at our destination?
2,000-foot ceiling.
That's alternate minimums, but you're on the right track.
Our minimal landing requirements.
There we go. So what's required?
We'll say weather minimums. Is it the 1, 2, 3?
Nope, that's alternate minimums. So these are very separate.
That is alternate still. Okay.
Yeah. So these are very separate things, but are both derived from our forecast here. Okay. So our landing minimums are required to be forecast at our ETA. Okay. So if I give you, does anybody remember what our absolute lowest landing minimums are?
Our lowest landing minimums.
We're digging way back into the
half a mile.
I heard it.
Oh, that would be 50 feet, wouldn't it?
No.
It's a half a mile.
Okay, so half mile on our viz, right? Okay, when we're looking at destination requirements, that's what we're looking for. If our airport has landing minimums of half a mile, okay? So when I look at a forecast, if I'm looking at a hub, which Seattle is, I'm typically just going to assume this. Now I'm going to verify that on my JEP charts. I'm going to verify that I have an approach that has a half mile visibility for the landing minimums. But just assuming, typically you're going to be right that a hub has half mile landing minimums. So I look through, the first thing I do is I look through and I look at these visibilities and I go, are any of those even close to a half mile? No. So we're legal to dispatch our flight. Now, if it gets close, if we even get a mile, like if we even get 2 miles, I'm going to look and verify that there's an approach. Or if it's like a really obscure airport, if it's 3 miles, I'll look and verify on my approach plates to see what the landing minimums are for that airport. But if I'm seeing 6 miles of visibility, I'm automatically assuming, look, I've got landing minimums in my TAF, so I'm legal to dispatch. But to be
and that's where his eye scan missed the 3/4 somewhere in there.
Yeah, somehow he missed that. So, and he could have worked up the dispatch release prior to that TAF coming out, and then just kind of sent it when he was supposed to, and then not even looked at the TAF again. That's a bad habit too, because we always want to verify our weather hasn't changed when we send a release. But, you know, it happens to the best of us. So, anyways, but yeah, so at our ETA, we have to have our landing minimums, right? We talked about this just a second ago. And this is just talking about, are we even legal to dispatch the flight?
Hey, just to step in for a second here. So, I mean, the easiest thing, I think, like when you're looking at TAFs, just to remember, is that for every single flight you dispatch, first of all, the TAF is probably, from a dispatch planning perspective, is going to be the #1 weather product that you most concern yourself with as a dispatcher. For every single flight you will ever dispatch, you will always be looking at your destination TAF. And you're always looking for 2 things. Okay? The TAF, you always want to look for 2 things. Okay? So I don't know if this helps maybe remember a little bit easier or not, but if you can find a way to ingrain this into your brains, that when you're looking at a TAF for your destination, you always need to be able to figure out 2 different things. And the first is going to be, am I legal to launch this flight? Okay, that means legal to, I mean, like Garrett was saying, legal to go, right? That has nothing to do with the alternate. That has nothing to do with anything. That means, are we literally legal to even dispatch this flight and to have it take off? Now, in order to need that, like he was saying, you have to have your landing minimums at your ETA in the TAF. So that is the first thing you have to figure out. And you want to do it in this order too. You want to know, first and foremost, can this flight legally even launch? Okay, now if that's the case, because if it can't, there's no point in going any further than that step, right? If the flight is not legal, it either needs to delay out until that ETA matches up with a time frame into the TAF that is legal, or cancel the flight, or whatever other thing. But the bottom line is, you don't want to do any more work on this flight when it's not even legal to go. So literally, this is going to usually be the very first thing you look at when you even begin dispatching a flight. It should be the first thing, okay? Because you want to know if your weather is legal. Because if it's not, then you don't want to do any other stuff. You don't want to sit there and spin your wheels figuring out the weight and balance and the fuel burn and a flight plan and all this other stuff when the flight's not even legal to go, you know? So anyway, so yeah, figure that out first. And, you're going to get a lot of practice with this. So don't worry if you don't feel comfortable with it yet, or if you don't feel proficient with it, because you're going to see this more than you want to see this over the next several weeks here. So that's the very first thing. Okay. Now, if the flight is legal to go, which 95% of the time they are, the number two thing, like he's writing right there, is does this flight need an alternate? And that's where you're going to punch in the 1, 2, 3 rule. Okay, so you're always looking for two things. First, is the flight legal to go? And you're looking for your landing minimums at your ETA. You don't use the hour before and hour after on that first rule. Okay, the 1, 2, 3 rule is simply just for the alternate. So, but first you want to figure out, is this flight legal to go? Okay, it's legal to go now. Now do I need an alternate? And that's where you plug in that 1, 2, 3 rule, and you figure it out from that point forward. And you want to figure out those two things first before you do any other thing regarding any part of the flight of the dispatch release. So if you can just figure out a way to get those steps in your head and know that's the first thing you do, and that with the TAF, you're always looking for those two things, and you'll save yourself a lot of trouble in the future by always making sure you have that. Because not only do you check it right at the beginning, you also check the TAF again right before you finalize and send the release. Now, that's kind of what he was alluding to when he said that that dispatcher that missed the alternate on the flight that he was jump seating on the other day, what most likely happened is that he looked at the TAF before he, at the beginning, and it may not have needed an alternate at that point. But depending on, and dispatchers have a lot of different styles, but a lot of people start taking a look at a flight, 2 hours before it's due to depart, and sometimes they'll take a look at it, and then they might wait 20 or 30 minutes before they actually finish doing the release and then send it. So in that time frame, the TAF can obviously change, and so you want to check it. It should be the very first thing you do, and it should be the very last thing you do, if that makes sense. Okay, the TAF, first thing you do, legal to go. Does it need an alternate? Okay, great. If those two things are good to go, then you work it up. You do all the other steps, and then when you get to the end, right before you send it, you want to double check that TAF one more time. Make sure it hasn't changed. Make sure that you read it right the first time, and that you indeed are legal to go, and that it does or does not need an alternate, and then verify that again at the end, send the release. And if you can learn to do that and always do that and always obey that rule, you will save yourself a lot of extra work in the future. So just my little 2 cents there.
Yeah. Like we were saying, it's extremely important. This is your entire life as a dispatcher. This is also one of the number one things that dispatchers get caught not doing in an audit is putting an alternate on a flight when it requires it. So super important, and it's also an automatic FAR violation as well, because this is directly tied, like this is one of the legal things in the FARs, right? This is one of the things we talked about when we were going over FARs, is this principle here. So this is where we're going to put it all to play, is in a TAF. This is where everything comes from. So just kind of one thing that I do every time that I look at a TAF, and I look I'm starting to dispatch a flight, like Adam said, the number one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to determine legal to go, and then the number 2 thing I'm going to do is, does it require an alternate? So alternate, what's the requirement? 1 hour before or after the ETA? Do I have 2,000 foot ceilings and 3 miles of visibility? So the first thing I'll do is I kind of clump mine together. I'm looking for legal to go and for my alternates. Okay. The first thing that I always look at is I just go and like Greg said, it's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. Everything lines up here. Okay. All my visibility. Does any of my visibility require an alternate? I don't even need to look at the ETA at this point. Okay. At any point in time in this 24-hour forecast, do I require an alternate?
No.
No. Okay.
Okay. So what if so let's see. So from 23 from 22. So let's say that each one of those, like let's say that one of them is a 2, one of them is a 6, one of them is a 1/2. One, like how do you know how do you know if it's legal to go or not if we have all these different numbers?
Okay, you're getting ahead of me here. Okay.
Okay.
So the first thing I do is I look at my viz. Does any of that require an alternate? And I always base it just kind of off this alternate, right? Does anything require an alternate in my forecast as far as visibility is concerned? No. So then I moved to my ceilings. Okay. The first thing I do is I look for these overcast ceilings and broken ceilings. Okay. My brain just automatically picks up the brokens and overcasts. Okay. Do any of those ceilings require an alternate? No. So that automatically means that this entire forecast, if I'm flying to Seattle, A, is legal to dispatch, and B, it does not require an alternate. Okay. That you will get to that point where you can do that. That's 1100, dispatch 1100 or 1300. Okay. We're going to go back to dispatch 1010. Okay. So if I give you guys an ETA, we're going to scroll down here. Okay. Okay. We're going to look at Little Rock here. Okay. If I give you guys an ETA, and we're just going to look at legal to go here. Remember, what did I say? Well, okay, hold on. Maybe we'll go to a bigger airport here really quick. Okay. Chicago O'Hare. Do you think that they're a major hub?
Are they a major hub? Yes.
Yes, they'll be a half mile.
Yeah, guaranteed. Don't even have to look at the charts. ETA. Let's just look at 1900 Zulu. Can anybody tell me what line we're going to look at to figure out what the forecast is at 1900 Zulu?
So the 1700 and the 2200.
So we're just looking at the Zulu. We're just looking at that. So what line exactly?
What he said, 2 and 3.
Would it have to be from the 1700?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
If we remember here, this is why it's important to remember these valid times, right? Okay. 1700 is good from 1700 Zulu to 2159 Zulu.
2159.
Right. So when we're looking for 1900 Zulu, we are looking at this line because that ETA falls in that valid forecast time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I tell you guys, let's see, what is my ETA, or if my ETA is 0 to 59, what line am I going to look at?
The first one.
first one. Because that goes from 0 all the way to...
Okay. Dang it, it backfired on me.
Last one?
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. Okay. Let's try a different time. One that's not on there twice.
You should just say the 23rd at 2:59.
Yeah. And that would be the last one, right? So what if I say this time?
Yeah.
What line would I look at?
The first row.
First one.
First one. So this one?
No, the second one down.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
That one.
The
Yeah.
first time slot.
So remember, this is also a valid time. This is just going from this time here until this time. Okay, it's still valid forecast for that time period. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this one is valid from 23.
Wait, so are they both valid for that time?
Nope. So this one's
Just the first
20.
one.
Yeah, so this one's 23:33 Zulu. This is what time this forecast came out. Okay, 23:33 Zulu until until 09:59.
Oh, so that's only got that's only got like a 45-minute break in between it, or half an hour break, I mean, in between it. From 23:33 to 0.
No, that's a 10-hour.
You have a different day, so it's on the 21st and 22nd.
Yeah. So remember, this does come into play. So this is the 21st. This came out on the 21st. Okay, at 2300
Sorry, I'm
Zulu.
overloading. I was just trying to look at like just the times.
You're good. So, and it's going until the next day, the 22nd at 9:59. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
Goodness.
You're good. You're good. I understand. You guys are literally, and I have been in your shoes. I know where everybody's coming from, and that's why I'm really trying to focus on this, is because this is where a lot of dispatchers kind of get lost. Is A, am I legal to go? B, does this require an alternate? And then C, what are my actual landing mins? That's where almost every dispatcher going through training gets lost every time they hit one of those points. So we're going to really focus hard on these because it is really important. All the other stuff is very intuitive and makes sense. This stuff you kind of have to interpret and
I can read them, but just my eyes aren't trained to look in the right places yet. So like I can look at one section of numbers and know like what the date and the time is, but like when you're just looking down at it, I don't know. I guess my eyes just aren't trained to go to the right spot yet, so I just spend so long.
Yep, and that's why we're
staring
doing
at it.
Repetition's going to be your friend here. Okay.
Yeah.
So what line does this fall in?
The 22nd at 14.
That falls on the third line.
So here?
No, sorry, the fourth line. Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. The third line, yeah.
Okay, it falls here.
Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
Because the next line's 15.
Yep. Okay. Does everybody
that will need an alternate?
What was that?
Does that ETA require an alternate?
No, it does not.
Yes.
Missed. Overcast at 500.
700 feet.
Okay.
500 feet.
Okay.
The reason I said no.
Oh, hold on. Before we before we do this, okay? Okay.
Well, you have
What
4
are
statute miles of visibility.
okay? So the only time we are only concerned about visibility and visibility only is when we're trying to derive are we legal to go at our ETA. Okay? That's the only time that we only look at the visibility. When we're looking at alternates, we're going to look at what's the 1, 2, 3 rule?
1 hour before and after 2,000 feet ceiling and 3 statute miles visibility.
Okay, so you just said something there. So we're looking at 2 things basically when we're looking at our alternate requirements. 2,000 foot ceilings,
ceiling?
right? Yeah, so ceilings come into play when we're looking at alternate. So what is the ceiling on that?
So that's 500.
500 feet.
And what is a ceiling?
Your lowest layer of
Lowest
broken
level
or
of broken
overcast
or
clouds.
overcast.
Or vertical visibility. Perfect. So do we have overcast 500 clouds?
Yes.
Yes.
Does it
So that's a
fall
no-go.
below? Yep. So it's legal to go, but it does require an alternate. I know I just blew your mind there. Okay. We're still legal to dispatch because at the ETA we're going to have our landing minimums, right? I haven't ever seen a chart, and I'm sure there's one out there, but I haven't ever seen a chart where the visibility requirement for the approach is 4 statute miles. Okay. The highest I've seen, and this is, we're talking circle to land, we're talking like terrain and stuff, 1003. Okay. That's kind of like your standard, like if I see 3 miles, that's anything below 3 miles, I start to look at charts because I just want to verify. I use deductive reasoning, and this comes from training. You know, is this a hub? Is this an outlying airport that has a lot of terrain in? Is it, or is it in the plains? Like all of that is stuff that will come. But what makes me really key in on this is at 4 statute miles, I've never seen an approach procedure that requires 4 statute miles of visibility. So I automatically go, you know what, this is going to be legal to go all day long. Okay. So we validated that it's legal to go at our ETA. Then we look at our alternate. Does it require an alternate? 1 hour before or after 2,000 foot ceilings and 3 statute miles visibility. So what is, we talk about this ETA 1 hour before or after the ETA. What is our ETA window when we're looking for an alternate? What is our ETA window for 1459?
So it'd be
all of
1359
1500 and
1559.
1300.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking for anything that's happening from 1359 to 1559. Okay, if we have in this ETA window, if we have a 2,000 foot ceiling or 3 statute miles or less of visibility, less than 3 statute miles of visibility, then it's going to require an alternate. Okay.
So that one requires an alternate.
Yes, because our ceiling.
It's only 500. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to erase all this because it's getting messy. Okay. So I'm gonna do a new one. Okay.
Someone driving?
Okay. ETA 0300 Zulu. What is, or are we legal to go at 0300 Zulu? So first of all, where does this fall? 0300. I want somebody new that hasn't answered yet to answer.
Are you guys calling the first line underneath the airport the second line?
Yeah. So this one?
It's that one.
Yep.
I'm thinking it's that one.
Okay. So our ETA falls in this from line. Okay. At this from line, what is our forecast?
6 miles.
So 6 miles of visibility and
No, 6. So yeah, 6 statute mile and overcast 800 feet.
okay. Are we legal
Yes,
to
we
go?
need an alternate. Yes.
Okay, we are legal to go because we are looking at our visibility, and our visibility, like I said before, I've never seen a chart that requires anything more than 3 miles visibility. Okay. So yes, we are legal to go. Okay. Okay. Yes, we are legal to go at that time. Do we require an alternate?
Yes.
Why?
Because we only have 800 feet of visibility and we need 2,000.
Not visibility.
Ceiling.
Ceiling.
Sorry.
Good. Good. If this said scattered, would we require an alternate?
No.
Okay. It has to say broken or overcast or vertical visibility. So VV. Okay. All right. So no, or yes, we require an alternate. Because of the overcast 0800. Okay. Now, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to scratch this out and say that that says scattered. Okay. Now, remember, we've got to be careful here, right? Because both before and after that from line, we've got ceilings lower than 2,000 feet, right? So what is our ETA window so we can determine whether or not that requires an alternate?
0200 and 0400.
So 0200 to 0400. Okay. So at that point, do we need an alternate?
No.
Why?
Because first you said it was scattered and it doesn't get into the additional line right below it where it says overcast 500.
Okay. What about the 200?
The 200, it's okay.
Right. Right. Because it's 0200, right? This line is valid from 0200 to 759. This line is valid from 2320 Zulu to 0159. Okay. 200 falls outside of that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Good. That's really good.
And if there's scattered clouds, it doesn't really mess with our 2,000 foot because does the scattered clouds not count as a ceiling anymore? Is it just the broken and overcast clouds?
Right. Scattered clouds.
Okay.
If it does not say broken, overcast, or let's just say down here, if it were to say VV004, okay. If it has broken, overcast, or vertical visibility below 2,000 feet, it requires a ceiling. That is a ceiling, and it would require an alternate, right? If as long as it's below 2,000 feet, right? So,
Okay.
so that being said, this one, it's overcast clouds, but it's at 5,000 feet. Doesn't require an alternate. This one's broken, and it's at 12,000 feet. Doesn't require an alternate. Vertical visibility at 400 feet. That's below that 2,000 foot mark and does require an alternate.
Okay. Yeah, I was just double checking. Yeah, so scatter doesn't count towards your ceiling. Okay.
Right.
Good deal.
Yep. Scattered, few, clear, any of those don't require an alternate.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to this this little rock. Okay. When we're looking at Little Rock, I see 2 statute miles. I immediately start worrying, right? Are we legal to go when it's 2 statute miles? I don't know.
No.
I probably need to know. We don't know, right? We need to look when I see 2 statute miles, I immediately go, I need to go look at my approach plates, okay? Let's see. Nope, I'm not going to do that. Hold on. Let me get my backpack here. I got to remember the password to my JEP charts.
Can you just go to FlightAware and look up the approach plates on FlightAware?
I think they use the. I can do it on SkyVector too, but I think they use the. What are those? Flight charts.
The other version.
Yeah, this version I don't like because I can no longer understand what they say. That's bad, isn't it?
Bottom line is we want you guys to be using the Jeppesen charts anyway, because that is what you will really use when you're dispatching.
Yeah, when you get a job as a dispatcher, you will use JEP charts. Oh, let me go to my mail really quick and pull up my JEP charts.
While you're doing that, when you gave the instruction on those legal to go, and then does it require a alternate? That took my learning from the memorization to the understanding. So now I get your Latin.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
This is over the next couple weeks. Everything's just gonna, like, all these puzzle pieces that have just been jumbled in a complete mess are gonna start coming together, and you guys are gonna start seeing the bigger picture of why we spent a week on FARs and stuff like that.
Hey Garrett, you can just go into the whiteboard if you want.
Oh, I got it.
I was gonna say, because the whiteboard has the username and password right on it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, and it has the link to the JEP charts right there too.
Sweet. I learned one way to do something, and then I guess I threw out the rest. Okay. So let's look at the Little Rock approach plates. Okay, we have ILS. Okay, immediately when I think ILS, what is an ILS? Is it a precision or a non-precision approach?
Precision.
Yes. Yeah. So it's offering both vertical and horizontal, or vertical and lateral guidance, right? So precision approach, when I think precision, I think low, right? Like lower minimums. Okay. All right. So the very first chart I pull up is an ILS approach to runway. Let's go back up to the top here. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. ILS approach to runway 4 left. You guys remember looking at these charts? Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, okay, what are our minimums on this approach?
Minimum.
3/4.
Okay. I'm guessing you're seeing that right there. Okay. What is our altitude or decision height?
580.
Okay. Don't look at that first one.
250.
Okay. So, what would our minimums be for this runway?
250.
Nope.
We have to round that to 300, and I can't
Yep.
remember why.
Oh.
Right. We always
Because
round
the
up to the
altimeter
nearest one.
doesn't.
No, just
Big
because
deal.
we're going to penalize it, right? We're just going to, whenever we see a foot, if it's 1 foot or 99 feet, we're always going to round up to the next 100. We're going to penalize it because we like that cushion. Okay. So.
Did you say for the runway?
No. So this is this is our decision height. Okay.
Yeah.
This is our minimums for this approach. Okay. The approach is the ILS to runway 4, but these are the minimums for this approach.
And why isn't it that 508 number that you crossed out?
Because that is our decision altitude. So, oops.
Okay.
So decision altitude and decision height indicate the same exact number, but when we talk decision height, when we're talking decision height, we're talking MSL, okay? So our airport is like 258 feet above sea level. This runway sits 250 feet above sea level, okay? So if we add 250 feet of a decision height to our 208 or 58 foot field elevation, we get that 508 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
My God, it
That's
makes
what
sense.
confused me last week. It threw me off last week when I questioned you on that.
Yeah. So pilots, they'll look at that number because that's the number they're going to see on their altimeter when they're touching down on that's the number they're going to see when you guys remember watching the approach and it calls out minimums to the pilot. You guys remember watching those? Okay. When it calls out minimums, that's what's going to be reading on the altimeter, that 508 feet. Okay. We derive our minimums off of the decision height. See?
Which is just from the ground up, not the entire.
Yep, this is our AGL. Yep, exactly. Because our cloud bases are AGL too, right? So when say this is our airport, okay, we have a fluffy cloud here with a base, okay, and from here to here, in our forecast, it's not saying this cloud height, the base of this cloud height in MSL, it's saying it above ground level. It's giving us that elevation above ground level, and that's why we use this number here. Okay, so if our ceiling from here, from the field elevation to the bottom of the cloud, is less than 2,000 feet, right? That's when we require an alternate. But what it's saying here is the minimum height we can have that ceiling above a field elevation would be 300 feet to shoot this approach. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Memorizing the sections for the ADX, I kept missing them, and that's why it makes sense now that I'm applying it, but before I just had to memorize it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So let's take a look at this really quick. What's the absolute highest minimums that you see here?
I see 702.
What about this one I just highlighted?
3 miles.
Minimum
3 miles.
decision altitude.
Yeah. Okay. We're talking a Category D aircraft circle to land with without this nav aid here. Okay, so we're talking like absolute worst case scenario. This would be our minimums. Okay, that, like I said, when we're looking at our TAF, if I see anything less than 3, then I start looking into my minimums, because maybe this is the only approach into that airport. I don't know. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure before I make a call on that. You know, that there's not an approach that basically is going to make me not legal to go. So when we're talking legal to go and we're talking minimums, we're going to find the chart, the approach that gives us the absolute lowest minimums. Okay, this is where we can cheat a little bit. So I'm not going to settle for that 3/4 or that 300 feet. Okay, until I've looked at all the charts, because I know the absolute lowest minimums I can have for determining legal to go is going to be 200.5, right? So I'm going to look. I'm just going to kind of do a search for 200.5, and look at what we have here. I found it. Oh, hold on. Changed my pen too early. Okay. What are our minimums here?
Okay, well,
You're good on that first one. You got to have, well, the first 2 half.
Okay, what's the ceiling? What's our decision?
200 ceiling.
So we got that 200.5, right? Okay. So I know at Little Rock that my minimums, my landing minimums, my absolute lowest landing minimums are going to be 200.5. Okay.
Well, I'm a little confused because when it says when it says runway 22 right, ILS, there's 2 ILSs.
Yep, there is 2 ILSs. Okay.
So how am I supposed to know which one to look at?
Good question. Okay.
Well, this is not 2 ILSs here. This is 1 ILS approach. The only difference here is that it says with the local altimeter setting and with a different. So like if for some reason the altimeter setting in Little Rock is not available, then you have to use this alternate one, which is the Stuttgart altimeter setting. And if you have to use the alternate one, which is rare, that's pretty rare. But if you did, then you have to bump the minimums up a little bit. The only thing that gets affected there is just the ceiling.
So it's just giving you 2, just basically 2 approaches in case one of them isn't good.
Nope. It's not 2 approaches. It is the same approach. Like he said, there's the only difference is, do we have the local altimeter setting or do we have the Stuttgart altimeter setting? That's all something that the pilot's going to worry about. Okay. When we're trying to derive our landing minimums, we're going to go with the lowest possible on this chart. Okay. So what I'm going to look at is I'm going to find my lowest on this chart. Straight in landing is always going to have your lowest, right? Straight in and ILS, okay? Those are always going to produce your lowest possible minimums, okay? So that being said, I've got an ILS, a straight in ILS with 200-foot ceilings and a half-mile visibility.
Okay.
Does that make sense? All this other information on here, let the pilot worry about that. He's the one that's got to figure that out, okay? Now, that's dispatch 1010. I'm not going to teach you 1013 until we get down 1010. How about that? Because there is another element that we're going to have to look at. But for now, let's just keep it simple.
I think that's enough to digest
exactly.
for one.
Exactly. Okay, 200.5. We got our minimums. We know that that's our lowest possible. So what we'll do is we'll go back into here and we'll look at this chart. At any point in time in this entire TAF, do we have anything lower than a half-mile visibility reporting?
Negative.
Yes.
A half mile is 25.
We're not going to worry about RVR right now. I don't even think, RVR is not reporting on this chart. So,
well, the big thing is you'll never see RVR in the TAF.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So here's our visibility. None of those are reporting a half mile or even
okay.
lower than a half mile of visibility. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so you're legal, but you still need the alternate.
Okay. Yep.
Because of the 600-foot ceiling.
Right. So first of all, legal to go. Okay. Legal. Right. We know that our landing minimums are 200 feet and a half mile. Okay. All we're concerned about when we're talking landing legal to go is our visibility. And absolutely nowhere in this TAF do we have less than a half mile visibility. So we know automatically that we are legal to go anywhere in this TAF. Okay? That's question number one every single time. Legal to go? Yep. Okay. Does it require an alternate? Okay, now this is where we're going to have to get our ETA. Okay, we've already decided that there are times in this TAF that do require an alternate. Oops. Okay. So what times would require an alternate?
Let's see.
What's the rule? So let's not even worry about the ETA window right now. Let's just do a quick 2,000-foot ceilings and 3 miles of visibility.
So I would say, so you're asking where is it telling you that you need an alternate?
Yeah. Yeah. What lines require an alternate? Does every single line in this TAF require an alternate?
Well, would the first line require an alternate because of the broken at 700 feet?
Yeah, we got a ceiling at 700 feet. Here in the tempo for that first line, we have not only a ceiling, of 600 feet, but we also only have 2 miles of visibility. Okay, here we're above it on visibility, but look, we've got a broken and an overcast layer. Okay.
And on the other line to overcast 500 feet and 2 statute miles.
What? Yeah, so you're talking tempo. Yeah. Yeah, so tempo, once again, 2 statute miles, so we're below on visibility and ceiling. Okay. Here, we're looking at this, broken 500, overcast 1500. Okay.
So pretty much the whole thing is saying you definitely need an alternate.
So this is good, but this is bad, right? So I can immediately look at this TAF and go, look, that entire TAF, the entire thing requires an alternate. Do I need to even worry about where my ETA falls in this entire TAF?
No.
No. We know that that entire TAF requires an alternate. Okay? It's not always going to be that easy. But man, I sure love it when it is. So we're just going to keep doing this down this line. And then so this is pretty black and white, right? On these ones, because pretty much the entire TAF tells us the same thing. Okay, are we legal to go? Is there anything that's concerning?
So are we legal to go? Well, overcast 500 feet on the first line.
Do we care about ceilings when we're talking legal to go?
Oh, okay, no.
Nope. All we care about is visibility, right?
Yes, so I would say we are legal to go because, yeah, you are legal to go.
Okay. What was my rule that I check?
2,000 miles, you check the airport minimal.
Yeah, so if I see anything less than 3 miles there, I'm just going to do a quick check, okay? I'm going to look at my charts here. I'm going to go to...
So Garrett, as you're looking those up on your plats, are you looking at, or the approach plates, are you looking at also circling minimums? Because they might only have that as an option. Is that what you're saying?
So look, if you guys look at this side here, do you guys see this part right here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is all of the approach procedures into that airport, right? This is Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport. Okay. Do we have an ILS into that runway? Is the first thing that I always look for when I'm looking for landing minimums.
Yeah, 3416.
Yeah, so 34 and 16 both have an ILS approach. Okay, so I know that I'm going to get my lowest landing minimums off of ILSs, right? RNAV, let's look at RNAV. Okay, in RNAV, we're not even going to use it in this class, but let's just say that it's a 200. We use this LNAV box, and those are our minimums. But we're not even going to worry about that because all I want you guys to look at are ground-based approaches, which will be an ILS or a VOR or an localizer approach. Any of those are valid. But if I see ILS, I automatically know that I'm going to get my lowest minimums from an ILS approach. Okay. That being said, our approach into 3-4 right, what are our minimums?
200 and a half.
Yep, 200 and 1/2. Okay. Perfect. Beautiful. Love it. Okay. So at any point in this entire TAF, am I not legal to go? Do I see a 1/2 mile or less anywhere in the TAF? No. So are we legal? Yep. Okay. Now I go through it and I go, at any point in time, do I need an alternate in this TAF?
Yes.
What lines require an alternate?
Overcast 500, overcast 800, overcast 300, overcast 7, overcast 5.
Beautiful. I know that I need an alternate for every single one of those lines. Not too bad, right? Look at that. You guys are already dispatchers. Okay.
Now we can all go to Black Panther tomorrow night together.
Yeah, there you go.
My family's there tonight, so it was a choice to be made.
All right. Yeah, I definitely want to go check that one out. I might have to.
What is that?
It's like the new Marvel movie.
Oh, okay, the movie. Okay.
Yeah. My family's going to SeaWorld without me this weekend. So I think I deserve to treat myself to a movie, you know?
There you go.
Have any of you guys seen The Greatest Showman?
No, my kids keep begging me to take them to it, but
Tell you what, I wasn't all that enthused about going to it ahead of time because I'm not necessarily into musicals. Like, most guys aren't. But anyway, but I'll tell you what, very, very, very good show.
yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to check out for sure. And my girls, like I said, they've been driving me nuts. Like every time we say let's do something, it's like, let's go see The Greatest Showman. And we've put it off. But I don't know, I keep hearing reports like that. Okay, here we go. Another super easy TAF, right? Am I legal to go?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, you are.
Why?
Because you have visibility greater than 6 miles. Statute miles.
Boom. Legal. I can automatically say that this TAF, every single hour, I am legal to dispatch the flight. Okay? If Detroit is my destination, I am legal to dispatch. Okay, now, alternate. Does this, at any point in time in this entire TAF, does this require an alternate?
No.
Why?
No, sir. Because they're all over 2,000 feet.
Right?
Oh, that. Well,
Oh,
yeah.
is that 2,000?
Yeah, still over.
Yep, still over.
Still over. Yep.
Okay. This is the tens of thousands, right? 20, 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay.
Perfect day.
Do I require an alternate?
No.
You guys see how easy this can be?
So it's a perfect day to go flying in Dallas.
Not Dallas.
Or sorry, Dallas. Oh no, not Dallas. Sorry. DTW.
Detroit.
Detroit. Oh, okay.
Detroit?
Are we going to have to memorize those two?
Nope. Not until you get hired by SkyWest. Or whatever airline you get hired by. Then you'll have to memorize the airport city codes for that company uses. We call them C70 airports.
So we look at the Taft and the METAR and the Weather Channel, or the weather's, whatever weather is authorized. We're monitoring those 3 things per flight.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the basics of it.
I'm looking so forward to being good at this, you guys.
It comes. It really comes. Like, we're gonna baby step into this, okay? Like right now, we are baby stepping into it, and you guys are grasping it. Now we're coming up a little low on time, so I
Yeah, I
don't
was
know.
about to say, don't mess with my mojo here. We're
Right,
feeling pretty good now.
right. So we're gonna step it up a tiny notch, but we're not gonna like throw the book at you. Okay. So you guys have been looking at these TAFs, and pretty much we've just kind of overlooked the entire TAF, right? Now, if I get thrown an ETA, does that change my thought process at all? No. That should not change your thought process at all. This
You
is
just have to know what line to
even
look at.
yeah, even though people might consider it a little too much work, this is still the way I do it. Okay? Rather than trying to sit there and fumble and trying to figure out what's going on at 1900 Zulu. Yeah, that's easy for me now, but when I was going through training, that was like you're asking me to do 15 different things all at once, right? But let's break it down once again before we even look at our ETA. I don't want you guys to think about this, okay? We're going to look at the TAF as a whole. We're going to figure out, is it legal to dispatch the flight in this TAF?
Yes.
Every single time slot in this TAF, right, is 6 miles or greater visibility. We are legal to dispatch in every single time slot for this TAF. Okay. Now, are there times that require an alternate in this TAF?
I want to say no.
Okay. Let's go through line by line. Does this line require an alternate? This first line?
No.
No. Okay. Let's look at this line. Does this line require it?
No.
We're getting close there, right? That's 2,500 feet, right? But it's not the 2,000 foot ceiling. Okay, does this line require it?
No.
You sure?
That's 1,500.
That's 1,500 foot ceilings, right? Overcast at 1,500 feet. So we know that line requires.
That one does, and the last one does as well.
Okay. Does this line require it?
No.
No. We're over that 2,000 foot ceiling, right? Does this line require it?
Yes.
Why?
Because your scattered is 800 and overcast is 1,500, which is below 2,000.
Right. Do we care about the scattered?
No, it's the ladder that's the problem.
Right. We only care if it's overcast or broken, right? Okay. Okay. So the only two, we can erase this line completely. We can erase this line completely. Okay. And this line completely. Okay. Those time slots don't matter. Now let's look at our ETA window. We know that there's 2 time slots that require an alternate in this entire TAF. Let's look at our ETA window. Okay. So we're going to take that 1900. We're going to look at the hour before and the hour after, which means we're going to look from 1800 Zulu to 2000 Zulu, right? Okay. Now, where does our ETA window fall?
We got a problem. It's on the 1,700.
Okay, beautiful. Our entire ETA window falls only on this line. Does this require an
I
alternate?
love that. Yes, it does. I love that reverse engineer, so you can only worry about one instead of 5 or 4.
Yep. Rather than mixing ourselves up with all this other BS, we focus on what's pertinent to us. Okay. None of this, out of this entire TAF, that is literally the only thing that matters. Okay. Our ETA window, even if our ETA window, this last number fell in that window, or this first number was the only thing that fell in that window, regardless, it still requires an alternate. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
See, does that help breaking it down to that simple? Or is that, see, and
Not only helps, but it speeds it up massively.
yeah. Now, if I were to just go and say ETA 1230 Zulu on this one, and you guys were to try to break it down, you'd get overwhelmed, right? You'd be like, well, look at all of this. Look at all this mess. Like it's almost overwhelming to go legal and alternate, right? So if it helps you guys, every time you pull up a TAF and you're asked to dispatch a flight, if you write down legal and alternate and then just start crossing off lines, you're going to get to that answer, right? It kind of helps narrow it down.
Especially with the desk giving you 40 to 50 flights.
Yeah.
You don't have time to look at every line.
Right. You don't. And you're going to get really fast at this, but I want you guys to use that method until you guys really understand it and your eyes are trained to just pick it up. You know, like
40
CJ
or
said,
50 flights.
right? 40 or 50 flights in a 10-hour shift. So you're doing.
Stop that.
Eventually, you would be doing 5 flights an hour, right? I mean, that's a lot. You'd be averaging that 5 flights an hour. So, but it's definitely not like that. It's kind of balanced in a weird way. Your last hour doesn't have any flights, and your first hour has like 10 flights. But, anyways, that's here nor there. But what I want you guys to do, like CJ said, her eyes aren't trained to just take this in as a whole and just go, boom, that's the line I'm looking at. And yes, it requires an alternate. You know, like you've got to train your eyes to do that. So even though it sounds like it's a lot to sit there and go through it like that, I want you guys to pick apart the TAF like that. Is there any time that requires an or is there any time that the visibility is below a half mile and or basically makes this flight not legal to dispatch? No. Okay, so I know that I'm legal to dispatch. Is there any time period that requires an alternate? Yes. Does my ETA window fall in that time period? No. Do I require an alternate? No. You know, I want you guys to break it down like that. And your eyes will slowly train itself.
Are we going to get these reports on a computer screen like this, or are we going to get them on paper so we can cross out the lines we don't need?
Yeah. So when we start doing our flight planning, we will give you a packet with the information on it. So you will have an actual packet. I want you guys, just give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I have any of my flight plans. Here, just 1 second. All right. Yay. Adam, you'll be proud of me. I actually have my packets still.
Yeah, I can see where highlighters are going to be worth their weight in gold.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I'm going to show you here. My apologies for my psychedelic hair and everything right now, but let's see. I can't even remember how to turn on my webcam. There we go. Okay. Does everybody see me? Okay. This is what your weather packets will look like. Oh man, it's like reverse. Garbage. Anyways, as you can see here, this top section, can everybody see it? This will give us our city pair, the tail number of the aircraft, the amount of people and bags we have on board the aircraft, any MELs, and then our estimated time of departure. Okay, we're going to have to figure out our ETA, but we give you the estimated time of departure. Okay, then it goes through. You have your METARs, your TAFs, and then any of your NOTAMs for that city pair. Okay, and these packets go through, like you guys can see, it's a ton of information. I go through, the first thing that I do when I get these packets is I highlight the pertinent information. Like Greg was saying, you know, it's worth its weight in gold because I'm going through, I'm highlighting everything that actually matters to me when I'm planning my flight, so that my eyes are just drawn, because that's a lot of information to look at, right? And if I have to go back in my NOTAMs and look at my NOTAMs, it's really hard to look at that page and just go, oh yeah, that still pertains to me. I eliminate a lot of time by highlighting the pertinent information, right? And like, you got your winds aloft charts. You guys remember these babies, right? So I'll highlight the altitudes at which I'm expected to be or when I'm crossing these stations, things like that. Anyways, we'll get into flight planning and that whole gooey mess of fun. But yeah, super cool.
If I were not using highlighters extensively, I'd be scared to death I would kind of glaze over something and release it with errors. I mean, it's just, there's way too many opportunities to miss.
Yeah. And on the computer software we use at work, I even have it automatically highlight the stuff for me. So I put in keywords and it automatically highlights them every time I pull up the NOTAMs. It's really nice.
That is genius.
Yeah. So, anyways.
So many highlighters.
Yeah. So, anyways, we've covered TAFs pretty well today. I don't think I want to cover them anymore. Like Greg said, let's not wash out all that good information that's sticking with anything else this class period. Let's save that for next time. But I want you guys to, if you have time tonight or tomorrow, I want you guys to go through and pull up a handful of TAFs like this. Did the aviation weather.gov start working for you guys?
I tried it again last night and early this morning. It didn't work.
I was lazy. I used the ones that you sent or put in the folder.
You used what?
I was lazy since you put those in the folder. I just used yours that you clipped and put in.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Oh, it's working. Okay.
Yes, and I have the packet that it's on the.
Hold on. What wasn't working for you guys? Because I can just click on aviation weather.
Yeah, it's working
.gov and it
now.
lets me in.
Yesterday.
Yeah, mine's working.
Yesterday,
Yeah, it wasn't
for some
working
reason,
yesterday.
it wasn't working. The entire site was shut down. So, let's see.
Really? What time?
Just near the end of class there.
Oh.
When we checked it. Let's see. I'm going to add a couple airports to this, and I'm just going to put TAFs and METARs on here. I want you guys to look at them. Okay. And I want you guys to practice. Practice. Okay? On the top of every one of those TAFs, I want you to put legal and alternate, and I want you to write down, is this legal to dispatch? If there is anything with 2 miles or less, I want you guys to highlight it and put question mark for legal. Okay? If there's anything that is greater than 2 miles, okay, let's just say 2 miles. Let's make it easy. Okay? Anything less than 2 miles, you're legal to dispatch, question mark. Anything that requires an alternate, I want you guys to go through and highlight every one of the lines that require an alternate. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. So
I'm gonna go do all the ones on my ADX test.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
this will help in a ticket next week on the ADX because I was struggling with the weather questions on there because I just didn't get it.
Yeah, this is gonna help me out a ton on the ADX when I go to.
Well, that test certainly, that prep it's not focused on teaching you what and how. It just
Memorization game.
Yeah, it's just a brute memorization tool.
Yeah. That test sucks.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that I waited now because now I feel like even though I'm not gonna remember everything on the ADX, like my chances have for sure gone up of passing. I'm gonna take it on the 7th of March.
Awesome.
I'm taking mine on the 27th next week.
Nice.
Perfect. I like hearing these tests.
Yeah.
Like that test is the biggest hurdle in this entire in getting your dispatch.
It's brutal.
It kicked my butt for way too long.
Like, if you don't pass, you have to wait like a week or before you can take it.
Nope.
You have to wait a month without an endorsement.
Without
you need to get someone to sign off for you.
But I'll sign off for you guys. So what happens is you'll receive a paper. If you receive a paper and you have a failing score on there, it'll give me a bunch of codes. We can look at those codes, or we can just talk about the points where you struggled on the test. Okay, and then we'll kind of review those sections of the test. And your software actually, like if you put in, I think the codes start with like a P and then some number, like P4602 or something like that. Anyways, whatever that number, you can plug it into your test software and it will actually pull up the questions underneath that error code. So any of the subjects that you got a question wrong in, it'll give you a code, and that's the code that you plug into the software. It'll pull up those questions. You review those questions. You come to me and you say, I've reviewed the questions, or we can go over things that you need a little more help with. And then once we've gone over that review and you've reviewed the test yourself, I'll sign off the paper saying that you're ready to take the test again, and you can take it at any point.
Okay. Just in case.
Yeah.
I hope I don't.
It's, you know what? I'm not going to lie, it's a hard test. And it's hard because hardly any of it actually pertains to us as dispatchers, but the test is required. Um, oops, wrong one. Um, hmm. All right. That's probably enough airports. That's a lot of airports. Oh. Oops. Okay. Ah. All right. Yeah, that's a lot of TAFs and METARs for you. Oops, not a new folder. You know, I'll leave and do you guys a favor here. I'll put this in for you.
So that's the sheet that we can print off and practice on.
Yeah, you guys can practice on this sheet. But what I want you to go through and do is just like I said. Gosh dang it. Since you don't have all of the JEP charts to these, I'm not going to make you look up the landing minimums on them. But dinner's done.
Yeah, the burrito's ready. Let's do it.
Here we go.
We should have a burrito study session. Everybody brings burritos right before the final.
You should ask Adam what I'm notorious for. What did I do?
Burritos?
Every single class. I called and ordered a pizza. He's not on right now.
Nice. I'm down with pizza too.
But that was back.
Always.
That was back when he was teaching at Salt Lake Community College. Our classes were twice a week, 7-hour long classes. So.
What day of the week was it? How did you work that with your job?
Oh man. So it was. There was one time that was Monday and Wednesdays, and then there was a Tuesday and Thursday. And I believe we met like every Saturday on one of the classes. I can't remember exactly how it was structured, but anyways, so it was 3:00 p.m. until 10:00 at night.
Oh, so kind of similar to what we're doing now.
Yeah, but
my days are long. I work 7 to 4, and then I do this 5:30 to 9:30 Monday through Friday.
yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And then you got your kids on top of that, and you got their lives, and then
Yep.
your husband, I'm sure, his life on top of that, and
Yep.
because I know how us
And
husbands can be.
And 2 high maintenance best friends.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is the chart. You guys go through. Maybe I'll put a little instruction here.
As overwhelming as that ADX prep is, I just remember vividly sitting with the FAA examiner for my ground. He was our ground instructor, an FAA examiner of all people, the most dry, militant person you could possibly imagine. And it took a whole semester to get through just that ground. And then I go through this ADX prep, and I'm thinking, if you had to go through all of this to the level of actually doing it and not just memorizing a discrete set of questions,
yeah,
you're talking multiple years. I mean, just getting through the OBS and just the various instruments and how you get reverse. I mean, that just scrambles your eggs for weeks. I mean, but where you can just memorize, oh, it's D, it's A, it's C. I just almost cringed when I had to get through that navigation and IFR section and just think what I'd have to know if I had to actually go apply it.
So that's how Salt Lake Community College approached it. And that's why taking the dispatch the dispatch course took us 2 years, was because it was literally, they wanted you to be able to answer every question on the ADX with a logical understanding of why. So, like I said before,
that makes my stomach hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, and remember, this is over 2 years before you take the test. So we went through, like I said, private pilot. So first there was an aviation orientation class where we just learned the basics of, like, we did field trips to the air traffic control tower, and Adam came and spoke in that class and said, this is dispatching and it kicks pilots' butts, as far as like the schedule goes and stuff like that. And that's why I decided to be a dispatcher. and anyways, so we took that class, and we had to take an aviation transportation class. So the transportation class, we had to basically learn the history of aviation. So going all the way back from like pre-Wright brothers even, and learning about the first engine types, the gliders, dihedrals, antidihedral, like all of that crap. And then we had to learn, we had to go through a ground school for private pilot, ground school for instrument pilot, aviation weather, air traffic control course, systems, aviation systems, and then a human factors class before we were even allowed to sign up for Dispatch 1010.
And then on top of that, I'd have to schedule anywhere from 2 to 4 hops a week. And so you think you knew what you'd get in a plane and get all that pressure and stick and rudder, and it's just mind melting. And to think, that's what just makes me cringe. If I had to do that for all this info I was memorizing, I'd never get it done. I mean, it'd be crazy.
There's a reason why it took me so long to actually commit and bite the bullet. Okay. I am going to call it as far as class. I will have this up on the website in about 30 seconds. But I don't want you guys to have to sit here while I finish editing this document. But I'll put instructions for the TAF for the legal to go. And then once I get done putting those instructions in, yeah, like I said, is it legal to go? Highlight it where it wouldn't be legal to go if it's not. And then if it is legal to go, does it require an alternate? And any of the lines that require an alternate, highlight those lines. Okay?
Okay. That was a really good night. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, no problem.